You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off!
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility. We have a fault. Get to the chopper! And leave. Does the flesh move? I am the father.
Welcome to the special videocast episode of SludgeCast. We got co-host Matt here.
Matt.
And then two awesome dudes from Heroes Hangout. One, when you're watching this, if you haven't liked them or seen them on Facebook, make sure you give them a like. Awesome dudes, awesome comic collectors. And they love taking everybody's money, especially mine lately. So we appreciate them. Jeff, you want to say hey?
Hey, how is everybody? I can spit it out.
Bubba?
Hey, I'm Bubba. How y'all doing?
So they're here for us today, with us today, because we're obviously doing a very special episode on comic collecting. One of the reasons why we wanted to do this a video episode is because how can we show you off amazing comics if it's just audio? So we want to make sure you guys are able to see that. So real quick, before we jump into the episode, we've got some good stuff for you guys tonight. I want Jeff and Bubba to kind of just say a little bit about Heroes Hangout, promote it, and then just kind of say what they do. So you guys take the floor for a second, or a minute, or however long you want to.
Take it.
Well, Heroes Hangout was originally Jeff's brand, I guess is the best way to say it. And actually, I was buying books from him every year at RobCon, our local show there in Bristol. I'd usually buy his biggest Amazing Spider-Man book. And this went on for a couple of years. And actually, I'd bought a book from his son as well, my Platinum Spider-Man. And it was my wife was, and his wife worked together at she doesn't work there anymore at Bluff City Mill Elementary School. And she goes, well, why don't you and Jeff try to do some books together? So then I got to talking to him. It was at Freddy's that one night. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Just ran into him by happenstance.
Chance. And he had a show coming up, and he goes, well, why don't you come and do a show with me? And I did a show, and man, we just had just the best time. And, and it kind of snowballed from there. And a couple months later, my wife's like, there was a guy on Facebook doing auctions. She's like, why don't you guys do an auction together? So I talked to Jeff, and Jeff's like, I don't know. Let me think on it. So then he was, Jeff's a thinker. And after about a month and a half, he's like, all right, let's do it. And it's kind of spiraled from there. And I mean, our first show, we had 3 people in the room.
My wife so and the kids and
then me.
Bubba.
And it's funny. I think we sold like $30 worth of books or something in like 4 hours. Wow. I mean, it was. I mean, you got to start somewhere. And but now, I mean, we just surpassed 1,000 likes last week.
Yep.
And we were very excited about that. I mean, we'd been pushing hard. Jeff was pushing really hard for it, and his wife, Kristen, is always behind the scenes. Anything you see going on behind the scenes, it's always his wife, Kristen. So she is a very important part of this whole show, and also Jeff's children as well. So they do a great job.
So I know you guys are, I'm on there obviously every Saturday now, and then the Thursday that you guys, was it last week or the week before last? Even if it's just to listen about what comics you got, or just enjoying it is an auction, but it's kind of a show the way I look at it. I mean, it's cool to see the things on there because I'm learning every episode that you guys do, and of course spending money.
That's true. He just gave him money when we got here.
So I'm always buying.
There's always an entrance fee.
So it's going to happen, and one day I'm going to buy that Devil Dinosaur for you, Jeff. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
I got all it for you.
But so you guys are, you're averaging 40 to 50 people now, every Saturday that are watching it, and you're selling a good amount in high dollar comic books, which is really, really cool. So, I mean, I've obviously just recently met you guys at RobCon, but just hearing that you started from 3 all the way to where you're at now, that's awesome to see growth like that, especially for something we all love to do. Because I couldn't think of a more enjoyable thing to do on Saturday nights. I mean, we enjoy doing this. I mean, we just get together and, do we want more people to listen and fans? Absolutely. But you know what? For us, we just enjoy doing it. And when you watch you guys, that's what it seems like, is you guys just really enjoy just doing the show. And because you're big fans of comic books, just like the rest of us are.
You got to love the hobby. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
It's a labor of love.
So So, all right, we'll get into comic book collecting here in just a minute. One of the things I want to go through real quick, last week, or the last episode, we went through our SludgeCast jukebox. It is time for the newsreel. This was difficult. I was talking to Matt earlier, and just so you guys know, we alternate between a jukebox and a newsreel to kind of keep everybody up to date on what's going on, in the pop culture world, especially superheroes and movies like that. There was too much for me to choose from.
Busy week.
Very busy. Yeah, and today got even busier. So I'm going to kind of pick a few things that I just want to talk about real quick in the news that's come out. One of them is Ruben Fletcher. Obviously, everyone knows who's watched the show or listened to the show, watching for the first time here. I'm a huge Venom fan. My favorite comic character ever. So I'm very pumped for the movie. Ruben Fletcher, I don't know if you guys saw this, came out and was asked again about Spider-Man being in the movie. And I've got the quote here of what he had stated. He came out and said, "I honestly don't know what I'm allowed to say." So we know Tom Holland was seen on the set during the filming. We don't know if he's going to be in it because Sony's kind of said we're going to keep this darker universe with Venom and Morbius and Kraven that's coming out separate. But then they've also here recently said, well, we're going to not do an R-rated Venom. We're going to do a PG-13 Venom, which I'm not a huge fan of the idea unless they push it really hard because not so much for this one, but for the sequel. I don't think you can do Carnage justice at PG-13. If they push hard enough, PG-13 for Venom, it could be doable, but the future, I don't see it. But so they've changed some things, and now Ruben's like, I don't know what I can say, so now the rumors are flying again, is Spider-Man going to be in it? So I think that's something huge I'm really excited about, because it's been interesting. I mean, the tarantula's not on the suit. They put a lot of white in it to make it look cool, but not having Spider-Man at least related in there some way, maybe not with the origin, is going to be kind of hard. Do you guys think he'll actually show up in the movie?
I do think he'll at least cameo the movie. Maybe, even a non-speaking part, just a pure cameo. But I think you have to have Spider-Man to tie Venom up. Really. Yeah. I mean, because you've got to, give something, to his origin to begin with. So that would be the Spider-Man.
That's what I think. I mean, he's got to be in it. And now that Ruben's saying that, I'm like, he's in there. He's in there. So
he started out just saying no.
Yeah, it was. It was just,
it was just a flat no 6-7 months ago. No. But now it's like, well,
I don't know what all I can tell you.
I can't talk about that.
I'm not at liberty.
Yeah, so I think that's him saying, I agree. I think it's at least a cameo. He's going to make an appearance. So that's what I want to point out, obviously, because I love talking about Venom. I'm super stoked about that movie. I love all the lines from the comics that Venom's been putting in it. I love the dark humor that's with him. I'm pretty stoked about it. One thing I want to talk about in the news that's come out a lot, and it's been pretty quick actually in the last week. A lot has come out, and you guys I'm sure know about the Swamp Thing.
Yes.
Coming from the DC live stream. So we knew from the get-go that James Wan is executive producer for the whole series. For those who don't know James Wan, if you've seen Saw 2, any of the Conjuring universe films, Fast and Furious, he's done some of those. Phenomenal director. He is executive producer for the entire series, which is great because they have stated they want to do a horror, a darker Swamp Thing. So I don't think you could have picked anybody better to oversee it. On top of that, they just announced, I've got the news here so everybody see me looking out here. Now, of course, the person writing the pilot episode and most of the episodes is Gary Dauberman. People probably like, who's that guy? He's just a writer. He wrote the new It movies for Stephen King's It. So, phenomenal writer. He's writing Swamp Thing, they finally announced. He has come out and said that they have stated from the get-go they want to make Swamp Thing, and they've told him, DC's done said, if you can make a TV show R-rated, make this R-rated. Make it a horror, because that's what I mean. They're pulling everything. They finally announced, thankfully, they're pulling most of the source material from the Alan Moore books, which, of course, I mean, we all know, I think, can agree, those are the best of the Swamp Things, was Alan Moore stuff. Do you have any of Alan's?
No, there's none out there right now.
It's okay.
We sold the last one
on Saturday night.
I've got one with me. We'll pull out a little bit later. So Gary's working really hard on this. They really want to keep the tone pretty good and pretty dark. And then they just announced that Len Wiseman is directing it. A lot of people know him from Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp. So they're setting up for success as it is. And then they announced last night that Derek Mears, who played Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th remake, is who's been is in the suit. So we know for a fact that it's going to be all practical effects. They announced that Greg Nicotero from Walking Dead, I mean, he does the special effects for it. He's doing the special effects for the film. Derek Mears is Swamp Thing. You've got Lynn Wiseman, Gary Dalberman, and then, of course, James Wan all attached. I know people are excited about Titans and a lot of stuff. I think they're setting Swamp Thing up to be the biggest, baddest part of the DC series, the DC live stream, in my opinion, right now.
I personally hope so, because DC is notorious for taking the best laid plans and just not developing them the way they need to be developed.
I hope they don't do that in this. I hope they don't do that with this at all. So, a couple other things pretty quick. One, speaking of Greg Nicotero, Todd McFarlane announced the other day, Nicotero has come on and he is designing and building the Spawn suit for the movie. So I'm pretty stoked about that. We haven't talked about that movie a lot on the show. What do you guys think about it? Because I mean, Todd's doing it from a very. I mean, he's cited Jaws as a big influence for the movie. You know, I mean, Spawn's not the main character. Twitch is, and Spawn's really kind of like the shark. You know, he shows up when he needs to, and he's the boogeyman in the dark type deal. Obviously, we know that Jeremy Renner's playing Twitch, which I think is a phenomenal casting choice there, and then Jamie Foxx playing Spawn. Is another phenomenal choice. And Todd even said, you know, when he thought of those two characters, his first choice pick for Twitch was Jeremy Renner, and he got him. First choice pick for Spawn was Jamie Foxx, and he got him. So that's great. You know, I mean, for a director to do that. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about the Spawn movie?
I'm excited. I mean, I want to see more. I mean, I like the original Spawn movie, but the special effects now, when you watch the movie, they weren't there, and the way we see things now with all the CG, I think they can really expand that movie into a possible franchise now. I
think it'd be good. I mean, Todd's even stated, you know, obviously with them getting Greg Nicotero on, he wants to do as much practical effects as possible, because Todd's made it in a few interviews. He's not a huge fan of CGI, which, I mean, we've talked about it many times. Yeah. I'm not. I love practical. We were talking about, you know, one of the other shows, the Monster Movie Stomp Down, doing the thing. I mean, you talked about it before the show. You go back and watch that movie from 1982. Those special effects still are as good as anything today. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, practical effects just, I think, can't be beat. I think CGI needs to be used to help, not to be something as a crutch.
I agree with that.
And I think with the first Spawn, which I love that movie. John Leguizamo as Clown was awesome. I feel like, and I think Todd even expressed it later on, that the CGI was much more of a crutch in that film. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's still a great movie. Yeah, the CGI is very dated in that one. So I think this one's going to be pretty good. I like the Jaws approach. I think the Jaws approach is going to be pretty cool. It's going to be, it's because Spawn is. I mean, he is that anti-hero, but I mean, the boogeyman, I can really see him
but
being awesome.
He's a conflicted hero. So
very much so.
You know, he's torn. So
all right, so a couple other things real quick. One, just so everyone knows, I mean, you may have heard about Avengers 4 reshoots. Have you heard about all that stuff yet? Okay, so
that's new to me.
They've been going back. They've been going back intermittently to do some reshoots, and they're going back to do some more. Mark Ruffalo came out in the news the other day and stated, to clarify, not so much actual reshoots as more finishing. So with a lot that's happened with our reactions as fans of the first film, they've actually changed a few things for the next film, and they're still in the process of finishing it. And I thought that was pretty cool. So based off of how we've taken the film, is kind of I mean, it may not be huge, but little things they're adjusting based on how the fans reacted on the first one.
Oh, somebody guessed it.
we got to fix it all. We've definitely got our theories on what's going to happen in the next movie. So, but I thought that was pretty cool. So, I'm excited to see. I mean, obviously, we all love Avengers. We're one of our friends at church, our buddy's Michael. He is adamant on this, and I think he's got a point. He doesn't think they need to even do a trailer for the next film. He says just troll it, just say, man. Twitter, the movie comes out this day. He says, I guarantee they'll still have as many ticket sales, if not more.
It'll be the suspense of it then.
Yeah, I think so, because everyone wants to know what's going to happen. You know, who's coming back, who's not.
I just want to see who they, I want them to introduce Warlock. That's
what I've been saying since the get-go. We've talked about it so many times. I'm like, I'm really upset that Warlock's not here yet, because I figured he would have been.
Well, that'll tie in the Infinity Crusade as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that also brings in another chapter of the Marvel Universe.
Which I think would be great. Jeff, you got any opinions on the Avengers movie?
Where do I start? No, I'd like to see after the movie's released what they changed. I'd like to know where it stands now and where it's going to be after the change. That's something that interests me. The other thing is I'm afraid the Guardians of the Galaxy delay. Guardians 3.
Guardians 3 is going to affect the movie a lot.
I think so too.
And I think that was a more intricate part than most people thought. And I'm afraid our Silver Surfer shot that we always were wanting and our Warlock stuff is going to get hurt because Guardians getting delayed.
Yeah.
They may tie it in. They may try to do an Infinity War. And they may show up in Captain Marvel in some realm. I don't know. But I'm interested to see where they are now. What was the ending? And then if that'll ever come out, they may never release that information.
That would be cool to see on a special feature, though, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure they will. We were talking about last night, earlier today. I just got the old Adam West Batman series.
Yes.
And the collection that I had gotten and I didn't even know, but somebody at some point released it. There was a small pilot done for Batgirl. And it was on there. And it was only like 8 minutes long because it was actually never even done for the public. It was done just for the studio execs. And it was in that collection that I'd gotten. And it's pretty, I haven't got a chance to watch it yet, but I've skimmed through a little bit of it. I mean, it doesn't even look like it's polished. It looks almost like it's on a video camera, like a hand camera. But it's, I mean, you got Adam West and all of them on there. And so that's pretty cool. So, I mean, they've always done through the years those special features or little things that are hidden gems. So I'm with you, Jeff. I'd like to see them, what happened and then what it gets changed. I would love to see them release that on like a special feature.
Here's the alternate ending.
Yes,
could have been.
Which would be great. So.
Here's a whole other movie.
No kidding. As much videos they've shot, they probably could.
I've got a few other things, but some of the stuff I've shared on Facebook, so I'm just going to hit two other things real quick as far as the news, and we'll move on to the first topic for comic collecting. If you guys aren't aware, well, I know Bubba probably is. I'm a huge Godzilla fanatic. Like, that's it for me. I've got, I mean, massive. That's
pretty good.
We're actually doing, we have a segment we're not doing tonight because Tyler's not here, but we have a segment in the show called Stump the Sludge. Because Tyler's always talking about, is there anything you don't know? Which other stuff I don't know, but I mean, I do know a lot. And so he comes up with some of the most insanely hard questions in regards to what topics we're talking about to try and stump me. You know what I mean? Like, we did the video game series on the last one, and he was like, what was the original Nintendo called in Japan? And I was like, the Famicom. That was too easy. But he threw something in there I didn't catch, and he's like, and Korea. And Korea was the only country, apparently, that changed the name. It was Famicom in Japan, everywhere else, and then Nintendo. And it was the Hyundai... something boy. And I was like, how did you even find that out? You know, so he digs really deep to
I'll be honest, I didn't even know. I collected Nintendo for probably 15 years and I did not know that.
I had no idea.
It was amazing.
So
it's just obscure. Google searching or something.
He tries so hard, and they try to get me. You know, one of the things we've had going for a while is if any fans ask a question that's Godzilla related, because I know so much about that if they stump me on a Godzilla question, they actually get a free SludgeCast t-shirt. And so we're doing a special episode in November, where one of the guests we had for Disney, she knows a lot about Disney. So we're going to do a little battle between Sludge, and we call her Walter. And so I'm going to ask her the hardest questions I had on Disney, and she's going to ask me the hardest questions on Godzilla. It'll be pretty fun. So anytime anything Godzilla pops up, I got to bring it up. So this is pretty small, but still super excited because we got the new Godzilla movie coming out next year, King of the Monsters, which the trailer looks phenomenal. Ghidorah, which they've shown very little in, just looks epic in the trailer. But they did announce in the news yesterday that Legendary is doing a trade paperback graphic novel prequel that's going to come out to tie between the 2014 Godzilla film and what's going to happen next, which I think would be pretty sweet. And then the only other thing is, we talked about it a little bit before we started, for those who haven't seen, I may have already put it on the Facebook page. Did I put the Robin thing on there?
Yeah.
Did I? Yeah. Titans is, of course, what I've warned you guys, for the kids, not going to be a kid-friendly show, but they released in the news today that we do get to see Dick Grayson confront Jason Todd, and the picture they released had both of them in suit, and it looks awesome. So, quick vote, who wants to see Robin fight Robin in Titans? Because that's me all the way. That would be great. Because we do know that from what they've released is Dick in the show, it really deals with the separation from Batman in this, and he's in a dark spot. And so for him to have those things that he's dealing with in his transition to Nightwing, because we do know he will go from Robin to Nightwing, so finally we get to see Nightwing live action at some point. Through that, to go face to face with the new Robin, who is darker anyways. I mean, Jason Todd, obviously going on to the Red Hood stuff. Yes. I mean, he's got that dark side to him. He just kind of floats through. It'll be really cool, I think, to see these two. I would love to see them to go head to head. I mean, it would be because we all know Dick Grayson's going to whoop Jason Todd if that happens. But
well, all the photos and like every trailer the whole tone is dark anyways.
Oh yeah,
and you can just tell by the way they're making this, it's going to be completely dark.
It's good, yeah, and it's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah,
I'm excited for it. I mean, it is, other than Swamp Thing, because until I found out about Swamp Thing coming out, Titans was literally the sole reason. I'm like, I will pay for the DC live stream service because I want to see Titans. Like, they already have me sold on that. So, all right, well, so that's a quick bit of news for you of things going out. We are going to jump into the first topic tonight, and that is the main reason we're here, because we're big fans of it. Well, Matt doesn't collect comics as much as the rest of us, but
he will after tonight.
Yeah, he's gonna get started.
We'll bring him to the dark side.
Hey, but
I can't let my wife listen to this.
Hey, well, I've already gotten Tyler into it now. So Tyler, our other co-host, he was like, "Man, I'm kind of interested in getting to it." I'm like, "Come with me to the flea market.
Yeah.
We'll get you started." So,
which we need to shout out to Tyler tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah,
it's his anniversary today. So
happy anniversary,
happy anniversary, Tyler. We miss you, but we understand you need to be with Hannah.
That's right, and I don't know if we had room for you tonight anyway, so it'll be okay. But they're having a great time because he told me, he's like, "Man, could we have not done this one another time?" Because he was pretty excited about this. So, but we are big superhero fans. Obviously, we've all rocking superhero T-shirts. Matt told me on the way in here. Obviously, you guys have probably heard Henry Cavill.
So sad.
Is not being Superman.
Sad, yes. Devastated.
So, I think it's just we're a couple weeks away from Ben Affleck saying I'm out as Batman. Unfortunately, I feel like it's going to be a snowball.
I think it's kind of a given.
I think that's fortunately.
For what?
I think he is the worst Batman.
No way.
Stand him as Batman.
You can hit stop on the camera at this point.
The worst Batman.
Man, no.
He's Daredevil, right?
Yes, he's Daredevil.
Dude, well,
he's the blind guy from Hell's Kitchen.
My wife was asking me the other day, she's like, "Well, I've heard people talk about it. Is it really bad?" I was like, "Honey, it's terrible. Like the director's cut is still hard to chew through. You know what I mean, it's rough. And more so than Ben was Colin as Bullseye. That was just
he was so cheesy.
Oh, such a disgrace.
They tried hard, but no.
Elektra saved the whole movie.
She did.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says.
She did. I loved her movie.
Yeah,
her movie was great.
Great.
Yeah, good movie.
I didn't. I know with Jennifer Garner, this is something that Tyler's good for, is reeling me back in because I will shoot off really bad. Just so you guys know, a little bit of heads up. I loved Jennifer in Alias. Thought she was great in that show.
Great in Alias.
And when I found out her being Elektra, I'm like, I don't know if she's going to be edgy enough because it's Elektra. Mm-hmm. She killed it.
No
she was awesome. She was awesome. I actually still prefer her over, I can't remember the actress's name in the Daredevil Netflix series.
Oh, I can't remember her name either.
Like she did really good, but she did not sell me. I couldn't attach to her on an emotional level,
right,
the way you could with Jennifer. Like Jennifer would just seem more relatable to than she did. But anyways, let's jump into comic collecting, the real reason that we're here tonight. So we're big fans. So comic books, obviously we love. There's comic books surrounding us. That camera is on
everywhere.
Yeah, and a lot of this is Jeff's.
The floor, the ceiling, tables.
That camera that we're pointing at here, that's on a stack of comic books. There's comic books here behind us, and we're all big fans of superheroes. And obviously, 3 of the 4 of us do collect comic books. I've gotten back into it a lot recently. I used to do it about as big as you guys did when I was a teenager, and went through a time where I'd really started in a band and was sold a majority of my comic books, just kind of pay for things. So but comic books, real quick, comic books actually started technically in like the late 18th century in Japan. They've been, even though people when you think of comic books, you think of the American market as big as it is. the Japanese market is so much bigger. I mean, where we might sell, I think it's like 1.9. It's a little over $1 billion a year market for us here. It's almost $9 billion a year in Japan. So it just is so much bigger. So it technically started there, but we're not getting into the Japanese manga stuff and that side. We're really going to stick to the comic books we know and love and what you guys do on Heroes Hangouts and the things we talk about a lot on our show. Really started kicking off. I mean, we had the comic strips back in the day, but the first actual comic book came out in the 30s and was called Famous Funnies, and was a collection of comic strips previously released in a almost trade paperback format. And then it really just kind of spawned from there, and people just started making a lot of they were more like just comedies or mystery thriller comics until Superman hit the scene, and then superheroes became what they were.
Because Superman's the best.
Well, no, he's not. So he's trying to tell Matt that he's wrong on this, but we get into this constant debate. You're going to get something on this, on why Superman's not the best. Batman's beating him twice.
There's nothing he can't do.
For somebody who is supposed to be able to do anything, he loses a lot. Okay? He loses a lot. That's all I need to say. So, Superman Returns. There we go. We just sum it all up. Superman Returns. Other than Daredevil, worst superhero movie film ever.
Agreed.
Then we talked about, I don't know if you guys knew this, but they did a Justice League of America made-for-TV film in the 90s. Did you guys ever see that?
No, I saw the Fantastic Four, but I didn't see that.
That's better. That is so much better.
That's not better.
That could not be the truth. That could not be the truth.
I have got them both, and I can tell you that I have the Justice League of America just for a nostalgic reason. It's not good. I've got a Plex server, so I mean I could be more than happy to give you guys access to my Plex server so you can go watch it and just share the pain that we've experienced.
We'd have to do it together.
Yeah,
because it's so
something we can enjoy.
It is. We'll make sure
the world out of the way. Put off into darkness and Batman on it. That's fine.
Exactly.
He could have done something like that.
Okay. You just said Superman Returns is the worst movie.
No, wait a minute. No.
So I'm going to turn that around.
No.
That or Spider-Man 3.
Okay. We have a running thing where I'm always dogging how bad Spider-Man 3 is because of what it did to Venom and the emo Spider-Man. And that is horrible. Okay.
So you didn't even include that one.
I didn't even think about it, man. Okay, Spider-Man 3 still is a worse film.
Okay.
But Superman Returns aggravates me so much more for one key scene, because obviously Lois has the kid and it's very evident that's Clark's son.
Yes.
Okay, why in the world, when he shoves that piano across that boat, does she not just go lose it? Going, I mean, she could technically take him to court for rape if you think about it. She really could. Because she doesn't know what happened. All of a sudden there's this kid, and it's like, oh, you were Clark's kid, clearly. That was never explained. So that's what aggravates me in the movie, is that they never... The one cool thing about the movie is you've got Superman's son.
Yeah.
And other than the piano scene, it was really dropped. I mean, like, that was like, man, you could have done so much with that. But...
Yeah, the first 20 minutes with the airplane... And everything, that is awesome.
That was great.
That was great. And then he went back to Lex Luthor again, which has been a villain 3 times. And
it's just so played out.
Unbelievably.
We've seen it.
Lex Luthor, we know, let it go. Let it go.
Man, and Spacey just did not sell it for me at all as Luthor. He was a terror. I mean, I amidst what all's going on in Hollywood right now, Spacey's been a phenomenal. I've never not liked him in anything. I mean, Seven, K-Pax, the dude's phenomenal. He was terrible as Lex Luthor. Terrible. So, back to comic books, man. Yeah, I'm telling you. It's what Tyler's good at.
I can do this on and on.
It's easy to get me off onto a tangent. Like, one thing we never talked about, I'm not even going to say it because I want to get into that one too. So anyway, so comic books has been a big pastime for Americans. I mean, for all across the world, especially, like I said, Japan, but Americans since the 30s, big time. And comic collecting really started in the early 70s when you started to see the little mom and pop type comic shops pop up, and people started buying comics for what they wanted. And I mean, it probably started before then, but I mean, the 70s seems to be the era that everyone notates as this is when comic collecting really started. And a lot of fans, when it comes to the comic books, it really seems that they when it comes to comic book, it's so broad. I think of a hobby because you got people who will just buy and buy and buy and buy just to have comics because they love comics. But then you got people who will, I'll use me for example, certain things, that I want. Like some of the things like we talk about the 29.9 series. Not worth money, a lot of money really, but for me it's nostalgic as a kid because I grew up, some of the first comics I bought was Spider-Man 29.9 #1, the Hulk 29.9 from, actually it wasn't the Hulk comics, it was the Spider 29.9 Limited.
Yes.
I became a fan of those, so for me, I want all of them. That's my collection there. There's other stuff, some that are worth a lot of money, but everybody it's different, it's such a big, broad world out there of just amazing characters and heroes and villains and stories that it's not something that you can just nail down and say, hey, I'm an Atlanta Braves fan and I collect this all the time. You've got all of this, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And for me, as far as just, especially from a kid and as a father, I don't think in today's world we have enough heroes that are just out there constantly that you can see for the kids today. And that's what I love about it from a kid's standpoint today is especially for my boys, they love the superheroes because they think, look, they're saving people constantly. So I think it's one of the most positive hobbies and art forms out there that still just has been around forever. What about you guys? I mean, when did you guys start? I started as a kid, but when did you guys really start getting into comic collecting?
You can go first.
About the same time.
Same time?
Probably when I was 11 or 12. I actually took a trip. And this is before iPhones, any kind of electronic media was around.
Right.
You're talking
You
about
gotta
30
drive
years
somewhere.
ago. So we were actually in the car, and it's boring. And we drove for miles. We were going to Georgia, and we stopped at a gas station. I knew comic books were out there. I had friends that collected, but or at least bought a few here and there. And but I was so bored, I found and I happened to run across that comic book, and I just grabbed it. It was Spider-Man in the black suit. Something different, It's like, what is this? Why is he in a black suit? So anyway, I'm sure my parents bought it for me, and we drove down the road, and I read that book 5 times. I just couldn't get enough of it, and I asked them to take me to another gas station when we finally reached our destination, and I looked around and found another one. It wasn't the one right next to it. I think it was like 2 issues later, but. Long story short, as soon as I got back here, I asked my friends about it, and I actually went to the comic book store for the first time, and I said, "This is what I've got. Can you help me fill in the gaps? I want to read the story," because it was a 5-part story arc across 5 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, and of course he had them, and the rest of it's history. After that, it was on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was hooked.
Hooked on it. So, I remember and we'll get to Bubba here. My dad, and I don't know, I should have brought it. My dad bought me Blue Beetle #2. And it was not Dan, the original Blue Beetle, it was the second Blue Beetle. He found it at like a yard sale and bought it for me. I may have been 6 or 7, and I loved it. Completely fell in love with it. So Blue Beetle, actually, even though I'm a much bigger Marvel fan, was my kick into comic books. And I love that character big time. But what about you? When did you get started?
My 11th birthday, and my best friend at the time, his name was Danny Crisco. I lived in Hickory, North Carolina. He gave me an Amazing Spider-Man comic book. To this day, I cannot remember what the book is. It's so embarrassing.
Number 1.
But I washed my mom's car with it. Actually, he gave me a comic book for my birthday.
I've got that book.
And I just actually just kind of started.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Just I got more interested in books, and there was a local shop in Hickory, and I went down. About 2.5 years later, I was like 14 and a half, and I started talking to him, expressed my love of comics, and he's like, "Would you like to work here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I worked there for about 4.5 years, and I might have got 2 paychecks. I usually owe him money at the end of the week because but that's how it started for me. And my mom, she never really, bought me any that I can remember. It's always money I earned myself, and it was just something. And I always remember I would put them in bags and boards, and at that time the bags and boards were a little bit higher. You could stick a thumbtack to the top of it.
Yeah,
and I had them lined. It looked like wallpaper in my bedroom. All the Amazing Spider-Man books. It was so
awesome.
weird.
I remember, like, when they used to be a little bit bigger, because I had the Marvel Godzilla series.
Yes.
I got collecting those really early, being a Godzilla fan, and that's what I did. I lined so as I got them, I had like a section in my bedroom, and I would just like, okay, I got 1, 3, whatever, and like I left space so that I could
that next issue.
Put the one in here missing.
Yep.
That's great.
There it is.
Gang War.
Wow. Is that the first one that you read?
That's the first Amazing Spider-Man book I ever
Amazing
bought. Yep.
Man, that's
and it's
awesome,
it's not a direct sale. You can see it was at
Man,
a gas station or something like that.
That's beautiful.
I actually it's been banged up quite a bit. I actually had to buy another one. It was pretty rough, but that's the first Amazing Spider-Man book I ever
Wow,
bought.
that's pretty
and that
cool.
was 31 years ago.
Man,
Wow,
that's
that's
amazing.
awesome.
That's great.
Look, Bubba, where's your first one? Do you
I washed the mom's car with it.
Oh, yes,
But I did the same thing. I kind of went through some phases. I collected for a long time, and I actually bought some of my friends' comic book collections because they were a little bit older than I was at the time, and they were getting out of it. So I bought a few here and there, and amassed quite a bit. Collected for probably 5, 6, 7 years. But you know how it is. You know, you've got cars and girls, whatever, all the expenses that come along, college and whatever. And I sold a lot of them at the time, and sold a lot of my core collection. Luckily, I kept my Amazings. And then I guess probably 20 years later, got back into it after that.
That's great.
That's what it was for me. I got out for when I was in the band full time, because you pinching pennies when you're a full time musician, big time, and then getting back. I got out of it for quite a few years. I sold, and I didn't have like the amount that you guys have right now, but I had a couple thousand comic books, probably say around 2,000, and I ended up selling most of them to really just because we weren't bringing any money in yet at the time to pay everyone's bills. We were keeping the band afloat, but there was a guy in Indiana where I lived at, owned a comic book shop, helped me sell a lot of the comic books. He'd take them to Chicago sometimes for some of them. Like this Marvel Secret Wars, had the full set of those. Sold those. I had the first series Man Thing #1 with the Howard Duck appearance #2, and the second series Man Thing. So a lot of decent ones that brought me in some decent money. But then here it was. When we started the show, really kind of got me back into comic book collecting, and then I was like, I'm gonna start doing these conventions, and I'd never been to any conventions yet, and went to Fanboy Expo, then Knoxville Comic Con 1, and had an absolute blast, and then met you guys at the very second convention I ever did at RobCon, and I think I'm gonna blame you guys now. So just so Sarah, when you watch this, it's their fault.
We get that all the time. You're used to it.
That's awesome. We are responsible for plenty unmarital bliss.
Yes.
We got some mad wives in us.
Yeah.
But so when it comes to collecting, one thing that I want to ask you guys, because I know that you went to North Carolina recently.
Yes.
So when you go out, and obviously I know something I think
we actually went to North Carolina and bought books.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys do that often a lot? Because I know that when it comes to comic collecting, like there'll be certain issues, and thankfully you guys are a big help for me since I got started as Bubba. I'll be like, hey, I need this, and you'll go through and see or try and find it. Having those connections like you guys is great for someone like me. But for where you guys are at in comic collecting, do you do that a lot? Do you go out and find big collections? You're like, okay, I know there was a guy in Townsend, an area near us, he had like, I think 1,400 comic books, and he was selling them all for $1 a piece. And there was some really good stuff from seeing the pictures of it. Do you go around a lot and say, okay, I'll give you this much for this collection, or do you hunt specific issues? How do you guys do a lot of the collecting that you do?
Both, right?
Well, both.
No.
The collection I just picked up in Irwin, and kind of a word of mouth thing, and I kind of saw it online, and the only picture he had was an ASM 300 first appearance of Venom. So very right up there, that cover,
My most sought after comic book right there.
very iconic cover.
Mine.
And I kind of got to talking to him, and he just recently retired out of the Navy, and he's like, I'm ready to get rid of it. It was 21 long boxes. And that's kind of what you saw at the house downstairs when y'all come over to the house, and it's over 6,000 comic books,
Man.
So, but me and Jeff, typically, I know 6,000 sounds like a lot, but we can flip through books quickly and pick out 80% of the good stuff.
How many boxes were in North Carolina?
Good gosh, probably 40 boxes.
40.
Wow.
And we went through them in 2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours.
Wow.
Dang.
I mean, we just.
Well, because you guys know a lot
But I mean, we know what books
to look for.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there were a lot of them in order, which made it easier.
Makes it very simple.
Right.
But we were flipping through, and but sometimes if they'll let us pick and choose, obviously, if you can pick out all the good ones, and
Right.
I mean, sure,
That's called cherry
picking.
cherry picking.
If
So
they'll let us do that, sure. But a lot of times they want to get rid of it as a whole.
as a whole,
Right.
so there may only be out of 6,000 books. If you can get 100 good books out of 6,000, you've done
5 to
phenomenal.
10% is the expected.
Is it? Okay.
Is typical when you buy a big collection. 5
Yes.
to 10% will be good.
Good keys,
Issues.
and then you go keys and then minor keys, and then you can break it down as far as first appearances or
So now, when it comes to those, because I mean, you guys definitely don't have to give out a dollar amount of what you spent, and I actually don't want you guys to. When you go and come across something like this where he's selling 6,000 books, do they know? Okay, I've got this issue, this issue. I want to sell it for this much, or they say, hey, make me an offer.
Well,
give me whatever.
I won't tell you exactly what I paid for the collection, but I will
Right.
tell you the first night I showed up, I bought 11 books and paid him $700 for 11 books.
Wow.
So, and then he actually contacted me the next day. He goes, "Would you?" Because he quoted a price that was too much for the collection.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I mean, it was too much. And I made a counter offer, and we countered and kind of went back and forth for about an hour. Finally, I said, "This is the offer. You take it, or leave me alone."
Right.
And he's like, "Bring me the money."
Okay.
But I mean, we've been very fortunate on several picks. I mean, we have. I mean, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it's just not. I mean,
It's fun, but it's a lot of work.
It is fun. Well, matter of fact, when we was going to North Carolina to buy some out of that guy's collection, the guy I've been trying to get a hold of for like 3 weeks lived in Irwin, and we were going through Irwin. He says, "Come over to the house. I'm ready to sell my books." The odds of that happening,
Right.
and
It's like it's the next exit right here.
we was the next exit.
Right. We jumped off the exit ramp, went over and talked to him, and sure enough, bought stuff, and then got back on the interstate and went on over to North Carolina and bought some of those.
I mean, I just say we bought.
That was a fun comic day.
Yeah, I just say we bought close to 1,000 books that day.
Oh yeah,
Man,
yeah.
Wow. So, because I always wondered too, because I know there's been a couple times, not many, maybe 2 or 3 times, where I've been at an antique store or the flea market here in Bristol. I remember several years ago, I went through and I'm not a big Superman fan, obviously. Don't hate him, but there's way cooler superheroes and better superheroes.
I'm glad people can see
But I went through
More
and
defined.
an older guy had just a stack of Superman sitting there, and the only reason I even grabbed it was because sitting on top was I think it was the 70s reissue of Action Comics, and obviously I knew it wasn't the original. I was like, man, it would be cool to have that just to say, hey, I can at least look and read the first Superman. And as I go through the stack, there was several other Supermans in there, and one that I noticed that was the only one that was bagged was Superman Legends #1, which was the only one they did because it was kind of like that artwork gallery that they had, but it was autographed by 7 different people, including Jeff Johns before he became editor-in-chief and stuff, several other artists, 2 of them were in the Hall of Fame, and he even had the certificate of authenticity card in there, and big stack of them. And I was like, how much do you want for these? It was like $2. So here you go. I ended up actually selling that one to Jan Silent Bob's Secret Stash for several $100s. You know what I mean? So does that happen often where you go through and you're like, oh man, here's gold, and they're asking a penny for it? You know what I mean?
I've actually paid more. I stopped at a yard sale 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago. A lady had some nice books, and she said something ridiculous, and I'm like, no. She goes, okay, well, how? She went down. I'm like, no. I said you're going the wrong way, and I actually paid her more. Than what?
So now you made me feel bad because I paid this old man $2 for this.
Well,
but,
but I mean, if it's kind of a retrospect thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can get that vibe from somebody, because some people you go to buy from, and Jeff can agree with this. I mean, they're just not nice people. I mean, so sometimes they're just, they just think everything they have is worth a fortune.
Right, yeah.
Just because it's from 1960 doesn't make it worth money.
Right.
So and that's a misconception a lot of people have.
Yeah.
So
most people that listen to us probably are involved in collecting, but what separates books apart from one another besides, say, a misprint? What makes one worth more than another one? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Oh yeah.
First appearances.
Okay. Yeah.
A first appearance is
stuff
always
like that,
big.
Or, I mean,
Rarity.
How many was printed?
Low print runs.
If it's what they call a virgin cover, or if it's a direct edition, if it's got a UPC, that means it was in a store somewhere. So it was not a direct.
Right. Those ones newsstands, like newsstands.
Yeah. So I mean, a good example is the third graded book up there, The Invincible #1. I mean, that's probably the most expensive image book that I know of, and any other Invincible book is really, I don't want to say worthless, because some people may love Invincible,
right?
But technically, it's worthless. But that book right there is $1,000 book.
Wow!
Just because the print run was so low,
right? Yeah,
so
because I know it's a lot different than, say, like baseball cards, when you had cards that players that were like outstanding and
hot.
and so those actually have something defined. Make it, well, to me, it makes it easier to understand why they're worth so much. Whereas a comic book, it's just like
it's movies, it's books, it's
right.
It's crossovers and.
Yeah, I think it changes too, because we know like right now the Venom Lethal Protector series is it's odd. Like, is number 4 still the highest right now? Or
4.
Change?
It's 4, 5, and then 1.
4, 5, and 1.
Yeah. So this book you could pick up for $1 or $5. This book came out in the '90s, late '90s,
92 or 93.
Yeah.
Show that one off to the camera.
This book you could have picked up for anywhere from $1 to $8 probably back in the '90s and 2000s, but ever since the movie was announced 2 years ago, that's how far in advance
it's
these
steadily.
People, when they find out they've hired somebody to write a screenplay for it or write a story, they hire the story guy, and that gets out that a movie studio is spending money to produce something with a film. That's when they start looking at this stuff, and now we sell this book for $25.
Actually, I was fortunate enough to pick up a nice stack of those last weekend. I sold them for $15 a piece every time I put one up. $15.
Yeah.
All night long.
Well, see,
awesome.
So if you go and stating that is if Venom comes out and it's a flop,
the book will go back to where it
down
was.
to where it was.
Right.
So, I mean, it does fluctuate in some things.
That makes sense.
But you do get where you get an Amazing 300, where his first appearance is. Now that book's been scaling up and doing very well, and after the movie comes out, it'll cool off a little bit,
but
it'll never go back to where it was.
No.
It was $600. It raised on up, and I'm talking like
A 9.8.
a 9.8.
9.6, 9.8.
Yeah,
always
$600 now. You can't touch those for several grand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and it'll settle back down a little bit after the movie, but it will never go back to the $600 or $800 that it was.
That book will sell around $2,000 at a 9.8.
At night, which is that's crazy.
I mean, that's a
But
typical price for it.
but they're difficult to find in a 9.8 though, because of the black spine.
Right.
And then especially the ones in the newsstands.
Yeah.
Because people
They flip
flipping
through
through the
them.
books.
Yeah.
Well, you're automatically out of a high end grade as soon as you bend that book at a newsstand. Remember they had the racks, and they would grab it, and if you look, I can't show the camera this, but this one was on the rack, okay, and you bend it, and it automatically finds a spot, and right there it is, and that's because it was on a rack, and that's what these are notorious for. To find something with the UPC code that doesn't have that in it is rare. So you basically bought it as soon as it came out. Nobody had a chance to flip through them.
And increased
Gotcha.
the demand.
Right. It made it, even stuff like that makes it more rare.
Right.
And the condition.
So,
that's what makes books
So
rare.
essentially, it's the
It's the combination.
stock market for nerds.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a
It's
nerd stock market.
legalized gambling for nerds.
Perfect example.
Way before Bitcoin.
Well, I mean, and if you're like us, you see the trends, and hopefully, and you're betting on the trends, which is just
Right.
like the stock market.
Yeah.
For people like us, we know that they're writing a story for Venom or Rom. You know,
Right.
The Rom
yeah.
number ones. There's not one up
And-
there.
Oh, you had it up earlier.
And we actually called ROMs, 8 months ago?
Yep.
And then that's just what we was like, dude, get all the ROMs you can get all the, and then everything goes against ROM. We're like, $100, $20 book. That's $100.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can pick them up for $20-$30 any day of the week. But now that they've mentioned that, we've sold them $100, $150.
$150.
You know,
Yeah.
and but it's a combination of grade, how good a shape it's in, the demand for it, and whether it's key. Luckily, ROM number 1's the first appearance of ROM.
Right.
So it's
That
actually
worked out
the
perfect.
first book, which is
Yeah.
number 1, and it's his actually first appearance. And if it's in high grade, and you know that they're going to make a movie out of it, here it comes.
Yeah.
You know.
And that didn't happen a lot, especially
doesn't.
back in the day where you got a character who appears in their first issue. By then, it's usually there in somebody else's. You look at Green Arrow. I mean, it was almost 10 years, if not longer, before he even actually got his first solo comic book because he was in all these other ones. And that happens with a lot of characters in that way.
There's another good example. Marvel Spotlight on Spider-Woman. That's number 32 of Marvel Spotlight. That's her first appearance of Spider-Woman.
Yeah, that wasn't even her.
That was her first, and that's her first appearance and origin. And then you've got Marvel Premiere 15 with that's the first appearance of Iron Fist before he gets his own comic book, which it's no different than Superman with Action Comics.
Right.
They try characters out, and if they flop,
The Amazing Fantasy for Spider-Man.
right,
yeah.
they just keep on trucking with whatever was going on at the time. But
Journey in the Mystery for Thor. Mm-hmm. So I mean,
Strange Tales number 1 for Man Thing.
Yep. Yes.
I'll own that one day too. One day. So, which I mean, you have like Howard the Duck. I mean, he didn't appear in his first comic book for a long time.
Yes.
Right.
As a side character that we talked about earlier. With his second appearance was a Man Thing comic book. So and then talking about the grading, let's move into that real quick. Because there is that, and we'll talk about CGC, CBCS, and stuff. But you guys do know a lot about the grades, obviously. From what I've seen, because you've had so much experience, maybe. What are some of the first things you look for in comic grading? I mean, obviously things like spine breaks or any tears. But I mean, what are some of the things that someone who's not big into comic books might go, what am I really looking for in a grade that I might miss because I just don't think about it? Or, is there something more than the obvious that's looked for in grading? If that makes sense, what I'm asking.
interior pages. That's the biggest hidden one.
Yes.
Is interior.
People they see a book and it's like, yeah, that's nice. That looks good. And it may have a couple of spine breaks on it or something like that. But you actually start getting inside the book and read. And CBCS and CGC will check it. I mean, they'll make sure all the pages are there.
All the pages are there.
There could be a centerfold missing. This whole interior, say these two pages which are made together at the centerfold, could be gone. And if there's things like that, or damage on the inside of the book, say the book has been cut by scissors or maybe stained or something like that, those are things you typically don't see because people look at the front and the back.
Well,
Right.
And that's about it. But you really,
when
It
like
says on the inside, because I never really ever thought about that. You know what I mean?
like Incredible Hulk 181, and this Marvel Premiere 15, a good example. They have what's called a Marvel value stamp in them, and it's a stamp of another characters. You'll see that one.
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
which
yeah.
it's got Electro in it. Well, a lot of people, because you could cut those out and send them in. And
Okay.
collect
they would give you
Yeah.
freebie.
Yes.
They would give you free
Right.
things if you cut them out and send them in.
Actually, I've got one of the Electric Company Spider-Mans or Spidey Tales that had one of those actually that was cut out though.
Exactly.
Rob was at the guy who does RobCon that we had talked about earlier where we met. His comic shop. He was explaining that to me actually that they had to cut out, sent in, and got that because he ended up giving me that for free. He's like, well, this has already been cut. So
Yes.
yeah, okay, I didn't
So
think
yeah,
on that
that's
too.
And if you go on eBay and look at Incredible Hulk 181, it'll say with value stamp or without value stamp.
Okay.
And it dramatically increases the value if it has the value stamp in the book.
Okay.
And there's also, we call them sister books.
Yep.
You'll get a book. Is it New Mutants?
Yes.
There's a New Mutants book that came out the same month as Hulk 181. Anyway, there's another book, and it's got the same value stamp in it, and it's on an advertisement page, and the advertisement page and the value stamp's all the same. And there's known cases where they'll take it out of that book and put it in this
Put
one,
it into the book.
Oh, okay.
just so the value will keep up.
Wow. I
But
didn't know about that one.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's I mean, there's a lot of fakes out there too. I mean, especially if you're buying books off of eBay, you've always got to be careful. That's what I tell people. You buy off eBay, you better know what you're looking for.
Oh man, I got lucked out. Yeah, because where I've been trying to finish off the Infinity War set, all 6 issues. I was down to number 6, and my longest running best friend, we've been best friends since 4th grade. Messaged me the other day. He's like, "Oh man," sent me a picture of it off of eBay. He's like, "They accidentally sent it to you." I was like, "Dude, did you give me that?" He's like, "Yeah." So he's like, "They said it's near mint," and I was like, "Well, we'll see." You know, we get there. Actually, I mean, when he got here, it is beautiful. I mean, very beautiful. I didn't even notice a single spine break on it, other than the one that you noticed. You talking about the flip through, but it's very, very small spine break. I mean, not much at all. No, nothing on the edges. I mean, so that one like lucked out big time, Brandon, on this because you know you never really know.
Yes.
Well, we talked about the Ghost Rider. I ran through with the 2099s. That first issue when it came in, I don't think it was the guy, more so the shipping maybe.
Yes.
Just came in pretty rough shape, but he sent me another one, which was awesome because don't trust many people on eBay. It's kind of hard.
I mean, I don't want to hurt anybody's eBay business. Okay,
right.
We definitely don't want to do that.
And there are a lot of people out there that sell that are great.
That are great sellers.
But there are, a few bad apples
out there.
I think you tarnish it.
Yeah. I think you can go with Craigslist or Facebook Market.
That's any market. It doesn't matter what it is.
Well, it's better to lay hands on it before you buy.
Preferably.
I mean, you can.
I don't know about Bubba, but I don't buy anything off of eBay unless it's graded. That's just me. I'm very, very picky. Or I get to talk to them firsthand. They'll actually converse with me over the phone, and I'll drill them on the grade. It's like, now, really, is there any spine breaks on it? I want to know what I'm getting before I purchase it.
Right.
And something like that. But a lot of times I buy graded books. But I'm a hands-on kind of person. I like to be able to touch it.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at one of the Godzilla's number ones on eBay because mine was had gotten faded. And I thought, I saw a lot. I was like, I'm going to pick this up. And I was like, no, I'm away. And then you had one. I'm like, I know if I get from Bubba.
Beautiful copy. Yeah, I mean, it was
beautiful.
Very nice. I mean,
something I can get my hands on before, seeing, which is a preferable way of doing it, especially with comic books.
Right.
So, I mean, because you want to make sure you're getting what's being advertised. But as far as the grading, because you're talking about buying those from eBay, let's talk about that real quick. CGC versus CBCS. What's the benefits, the pros and cons of sending a comic book to get graded? You said something about the X-Men that I've got that I'll bring out in a little bit. It's probably a 2 or a 3.
Well, I mean, you don't
worth sending there.
You don't want to grade a low grade book because you're just proving it's a low grade book. I mean, that's all you really do. And if it's a low grade book, by the time you cover your costs to ship it there, insure it, have it graded, ship it back with insurance, I mean, you're not gaining any ground on the book.
Gotcha.
So, if you're doing it for resale.
If you're doing it for resale.
Right. Okay.
If you wanted to protect it for your own collection, sure.
By all means, yeah.
It's a good way to store your books semi-permanently.
Right.
Long period of time.
Because they have a special plastic they use that resists sun fading. It reduces the amount of UVA, UVB.
Did not know that.
There's a vacuum seal inside there.
Yes.
Okay. Now, obviously there may be some exceptions to that though. Like if you look at like the Fantastic Four number 3, was that worth grading to have it say, hey, this is a 3?
Yes,
that's different
because it's such a high value book anyway.
Right.
Correct.
You're proving those books could easily go for a couple $1,000s even in a much lower grade, but even in a 3 or a 4, the book is potentially worth I don't know currently $10,000.
Right.
So it's worth to even prove it's worth $10,000 at that point.
Right.
People may look at it and say, no, that's a 2. Well.
Yeah,
and when you get it graded like that by a third party,
argument.
There's no argument. It is
right.
a 3, and this is and it doesn't give you in the price guide and online for that fact. There's a range that book lies in if it's between a 2 and a 4. And it's real easy to tell what a book's worth.
But you're also talking, Silver Age versus Bronze Age versus Modern Age,
right?
Or even Golden Age books. I mean, as well. So I mean, there's kind of where I think the difference lies in grading a Silver Age or even a Golden Age book. That's a big key. First, Action Comics #1 first appearance Superman. If your dog's chewed on it, you ran it through the dishwasher, run it over with the car, and you have it graded, and it's a 0.5, it's still worth probably $25,000. Man, people sell pages out of those for $5,000 a piece. Just a page. A page.
It wasn't the highest one sold. Was it $1 million or $3 million?
Oh, it was. I think it was over $5 million. But but the grade. I mean, I can't remember what the grade was. But that was on eBay 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I honestly can't remember when it was. But I mean, it was a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
It was a prince in.
I can't remember, Saudi Arabia or
Yeah, it was
I can't remember.
I think it was a prince that bought it over.
Somebody's gonna have that kind of money to drop for that
what's the
kind
name
of
of the place? It's they got a lot of oil over there. They're not just I'll think of it in a minute.
Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates.
No, no. It starts with a D.
Dubai.
It was the prince of Dubai that bought it.
Oh wow!
And I think it was it 3.1 million.
I can't remember.
I
the
want to
exact
say it was like,
number, but it was up there. But,
which is crazy.
Supposedly, that was actually going to go up for auction. I think once before, and they took it down, and then finally they decided to do it on eBay. It was going to do a private auction and then put it out there. But anyway, it's that's a big book, and even like Bubba says, even in a 1.
It's still worth.
Well, and say it is a 3, it's a low grade. One more bend on that book, you
2.
just lost $10,000. A bend like that on a book.
Yeah.
So you'd be smart to get it protected somehow. Even get it graded, then put it in a glass vault of something.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
for
talking
something of
about
that value.
Yes.
Now, do you guys have a preference when it comes to grading? Because I've been looking into it more and more myself here online. Between the companies like CGC or CBCS or was the other one PGX? Is that a preference deal or is it?
No.
I mean,
they're all good. I don't have a preference really. I have used CGC more in the past, but all of them have been good. I've used CBCS a lot more lately, and they've been great to work with.
We actually know somebody.
Yeah, because you guys know
somebody.
Yes,
I mean, I've known. His name is Daryl Hayden. I mean, I don't know if he minds if I throw his name out there, but he works for CBCS, and his wife and my wife were friends in high school, so I've known his wife for 25 years, and I just. It's good for me because I can physically hand my books to Daryl.
Right.
I mean, I can't. I mean, there's no mailing, so I run no risk. That's what I was telling Jeff. The collection I picked up a Thor 165, the first appearance of him, who later becomes Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, I want you to look at this book and see, because typically I won't. If it's not going to grade 9.2 or higher, I won't grade it. Okay, that's just my thing, because I don't feel it's worthy, because I don't have any $20,000 books. Okay, so he looks at it and he goes, it's got a great shot. So I have good what they call a top loader. It's kind of like what you put a baseball card in. The hard things at the top loader. They make it for comic books as well. And I have a good steady top loader, and I bag it up, I put it in there, and I hand it off to him.
Nice.
So, and then he can, then he hand carries it there. So there's, it cuts a lot of that, possibility of the book being damaged, because that book, it's a huge difference in the grade on that book.
As far the value definitely on that one. So now something else too when it comes to grading, more along the lines of, I know like you guys have the presses. So that's something that hearing you guys talk about has really interested me, because like I've talked to you about my man thing. Number one, while it's in great shape, it's just got the wrinkle. Is there, when it comes to cleaning or pressing the comic books, is there any danger that comes into that, or what? I mean, obviously when you do it, you guys talk about it, you definitely increase the grade to an extent, correct? How does that work?
Well, Jeff's he compresses a book. I mean, he does a very good job compressing books. I mean, he's good.
I don't know what you're talking about.
but cleaning, I mean, now you can ask Jeff. I mean, the books I've cleaned, I mean, it's taken almost 4 years to develop a technique myself to clean a book.
Really? Wow.
And everybody's first thing is, well, how do you do it? And I'm like, I just told you it was 4 years.
Yeah, right.
It's proprietary.
Right. Which I mean, I don't want to know how you guys do it.
No, it's not like that. I mean, you can watch a YouTube video and it gives you tips on how to press a book. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's always the correct way.
No, you better watch out. Some of the stuff you see on the internet is not true.
Oh my God!
I mean, we've seen people do stuff. It's like, take this, and do this, and do that. And it's like, and I've seen irons and things like that out. And it's like, no. You don't need to be doing that. But yes, you can help it. At least the appearance. I don't know if it physically helps the grade. I would assume it would. I mean, if you see a book that's got wrinkles all in it, and it just the eye appeal of it, it's flat. Once you get finished pressing it, you're not doing anything to the book that's not already there. The book is still there. All you did was flatten it out, and then cleaning it. Handling books. People's hands are dirt,
dust.
pizza. Whatever they had on their hands. They spilled Coke all over it or had pizza, and they're sitting there reading a comic book. Well, that grease comes off, and then it maybe just surface dirt and things like that. You can clean a book and get that film or dirt off of it, and the appearance is better. A lot of the whites are dingy, and just not a pretty white.
Right.
And you get somebody like Bubba to work on it, and it's nice. It looks white again.
It's very time consuming. I mean,
it takes a long time.
The
you
average
can't ruin
is
the book.
3 hours plus, and you can ruin a book in a heartbeat.
Oh, I bet.
One false move, and you could put a crinkle in it, like what we're talking about.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it is a process.
Yeah.
Well,
I've even noticed the way you pick that up and the way you're not even really opening it or just folding the page. How long did that take to do that? I mean,
I've learned it over the years.
30 years ago, you probably didn't do that, right?
No. And I still smack people's hands today. Somebody will come in, they'll be looking at a book, and I said, "You've been around comic books for a long time, and you don't know how to handle a comic book. There's a way, like you say, you pull it off, and you're supporting it. When you do it like that,
Plus a little bit of fold in it.
Yeah. You're pulling it up. You don't ever grab a comic book out here. It's just." And I've seen people grab them like that and let them go.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, it's like, oh no. Let me show you how to do that, or let's put that on the table and let you read it.
Yeah.
But I've let people look at that big books. I read that Fantastic Four one, but I had to be easy with it.
Right.
But because it's fragile when you get a book that's 60 years old or maybe more now, 62. I can't add and subtract very good, but you're getting 1962.
They are. Well, I had to. I just recently sold it. Dick Tracy 113 from 53 of the Harveys.
And how brittle they can get.
Unbelievably.
Especially if they've been stored upstairs. The pages have gotten brittle, just hot.
I was nervous just like the guy that I ended up selling to. I was like, please be careful looking at this. Because it is. It's so much more brittle than even the X-Men from '66 that I've got, so '67. Because that age definitely, especially on those back then.
But honestly, those old comics. They really were made better. If you get one that's been stored in an air-conditioned house or, climate-controlled all these years, actually those old comic books can actually look very nice. But that's typically not the case.
Right. Cedar chest.
Yeah, cedar chest in the attic.
Yeah. That's right.
And, it's not eat with moths, but it's turned, it's brown, it's brittle. I've seen, we've gone through books, we bought a collection or two, and you turn the page and the page just come off in your hand. It's just like a chunk of it, and it's like, they're just gone, Yeah. But 10% of the market is lost every year to either fire, floods. That's another thing that makes them more rare over time.
Natural disaster.
Natural disasters.
People just not being aware of what they have. Somebody passes away and they're like, this is junk.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody moves out and they say, oh, that was junk. He's in the military now or whatever. He doesn't want this stuff, and they sell it, throw it away, whatever. But Florence is a good example. The hurricane that's coming on shore right now. You're talking about doing a lot of damage in North Carolina and South Carolina. Well, there's a lot of books there. Did those people take those things with them?
Typically, no, they don't.
Typically not.
Because they don't. That's not your primary objective.
I've never stopped and actually thought about that too. That you lose that much of this.
I lost Amazing Spider-Man. I say I was up to 375 down to number 3 when my dad's house burnt in 2000, about 7 miles from here.
Wow.
So, and at that time, I just got out of the Marine Corps. I had homeowners insurance, but I had like $6,000 or $7,000 or $4,000. I don't even remember what it was. And my dad had $8,000 or $10,000 in collectibles, and it was upstairs in my old bedroom at my dad's house. And it's so odd because there was a printer as soon as you come up the steps. It was like a farmhouse. There was a computer and a printer there. The computer caught on fire, and the closet was right out near it.
And
nothing left.
That's always such a big fear. I've got, with being a Godzilla fan, I've got a lot of collectible figures that I collect, and just like comics, I'm very picky on which ones. People's like, "Oh, you want this one?" Like, no, I don't care. I know it's worth money, but no, I want this. But I have, back when I was a teenager, I ran the second highest viewed Godzilla fan page on the internet. Averaged about 20,000 viewers a day. And it was just awesome, especially as a kid being a fan. It was great. Then it got to the point where for 2 films of the Japanese series, the company that makes the movies, Toho, sent me photos and templates to use for my site to help them promote the movie.
Oh, wow.
Which is great. I went to G-Fest one year, and they had shipped me out to G-Fest that I was picking up there a figure for one of the Godzilla movies. It was it wasn't like a theater exclusive, but it was one that they printed a lot of. It was a Burning Godzilla figure that, to me, it's only worth, you can buy it for $40-$50, but to me, that's just like, this came not from a store, this came from them, know? And that's always a big fear. It's like, man, like if the house catches on fire, my family better run, because I'm grabbing that figure, I'm out, It's just one of those. No, I would. So true. It's like, gotta save this,
Collectibles insurance can only go so far. There's things that you can't replace, almost like family photos, if you will.
Yes.
Right. Or if you have original artwork, it's one of a kind of artwork. But now you've got an Amazing Spider-Man 1, and you've got a big collection or whatever it may be, you should get insurance. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
I've got it here, and it's separate than your regular homeowner's insurance.
It's actually collector's insurance.
Collectibles insurance.
Collectibles insurance, yes.
That's what I want to start looking into, because I know Godzilla-wise, my comics getting there, but my Godzilla-wise, I've got some money.
You can imagine, it
stuff.
doesn't take many books. You start running stuff like that, that's 1,000, this is 2,000, that's 3,000.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you've got, a pretty good size investment, and if it were to burn, you've lost it all.
Yeah.
That'd be disaster.
Just a scary thought. Yeah.
So definitely protect yourself.
Cool. Well, I think we covered a good amount of the art of collecting and what it goes to. Let's talk about and show off some of our favorite things in our collections. So that's kind of Jeff, do you have a lot of them up here? For those who watch Heroes Hangout or haven't seen Heroes Hangout, we are in their location. This is where they're in the hangout. Yeah. And this is where the auction starts. So they always have this awesome wall here with a lot of stuff that they're selling. And actually, I have a comic book here at the bottom, Devil Dinosaur #1. That's mine.
We need to take it off the wall.
We're merely holding it. It's in a holding pattern.
Well, and stuff that's back on the back wall and people see, it's subject to be snatched at any time.
Always for sale. Anything on the wall, it's for sale.
Well, some people say,
some people used to, a lot of these earlier guys, they'd put stuff in their background, to make it look cool or whatever, and it's neat to see.
That's not for sale.
That's my personal hunt, but whatever. Yeah. But now, when we started up, it's like, we need to have a wall. And everything they see around us, and we even joke, I said, we're for sale, our Mountain Dews are for sale, anything's for sale, and we've even tried to sell my dog. But yeah, we wanted it to be where they see cool books, and that's hard to do, is to keep putting books on the wall and having good books week after week. That is tough.
I bet. Oh, but, yeah. Because, you guys sell a lot each week.
We sell a lot of books.
We do. But we have a blast.
And
that's we always tell people, if you're not buying, just come in and make fun of us or something. Chat it up.
Yeah, there's been a couple weeks where I haven't bought anything, but I sit there and watch the whole thing because it's so much fun. Just again, seeing the comics, learning about the comics, and the fun, and the show. It's just fun. I'm just watching you guys, the banter between you guys together, or the people that are commenting or talking back. It's a great time just being on the auction.
There's a good core of people that have stuck with us a long time now. We've been doing it almost a year.
Yeah, almost a year.
Really?
It'll be a year in October.
That's awesome.
But there's been several people that follow us, and they'll joke. They know us. They've talked to us, and they know our sports teams, and they make fun of us and things like that. But no, it's all in good fun. Obviously we had to sell some books. That's what we're here for. But the conversation and the camaraderie is half of the show to us. Certainly, it always has been.
Yeah, and you could, just as a viewer, can see that there.
Yeah, it's boring. Bubba and I could sit, off camera or whatever, and just throw books up there and say this is $5, or whatever. We could do that all night, and that's boring. ever since we started, we've always gotten along good. And both of us can talk to brick walls. So, and it's kind of odd for me in here because we can see their responses, but we're talking to a camera. Yeah. So it's a little bit more difficult. But we're used to like this. We see what they're saying, but we can't. But we always thought that was neat that you can communicate with anybody all over the U.S. and the world. We've got people we've shipped all over Australia.
Then you just make it ship into Canada, right?
Oh, Canada.
Weekly, probably.
What would we ship to Area 55?
something over in Zimbabwe or something. It was the craziest address.
And it's like, people, do you guys ship to where? Absolutely. You want to pay the shipping? Right down the road.
Yeah. We don't mind it, but it may cost $100. I think that was like $55 for just a small package. But I'm not kidding. Zimbabwe, I think, is where it was.
Wow. That's awesome.
It was like Area 5 or 50. I mean, it was.
Yeah, it was a funny address. I took a picture of it and sent it to Bubba. It's like, man, we're sending something like Area 5, Port 12, Area 5.
I mean, it was. But I mean, we just enjoy it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we love finding the books. We do, because typically when we find a collection, there's something there that we personally will need out of that collection. Mm-hmm. And like Jeff said, a lot of times it's so rare if somebody goes, I just go through the books and pick out whatever you want. I don't care if I sell them all. Absolutely not. They're like, there's 4,000 books. There's two good ones. Start loading in your car. You're welcome to buy it. So, but I mean, that's kind of what you have to do. And, and after a while, you see what I got at my house. You see what Jeff has here. Your collections grow so large, you've got to do something with the overage.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're going to be divorced.
Very quick. That's really how even I got started. Is I was buying, it's so hard to find particular books I was looking for, and I'd have to buy boxes of books just to get the 25 books that I wanted. Say they had like 20 or 30 Spider-Mans. I said, I need those so bad. But I had to buy 3 boxes worth to get those 20.
Yeah.
Well, that being the case, so what do you do with the other 180 books you bought? Well, started after I gained so many of them, I started selling them at conventions. I go to some of the local conventions, and every year Bub would be there, and he'd say, "What's your best Spider-Man book you got?" And he'd buy it.
Give it to me.
Give it to me. I'll take it, and then it's funny. Years later, we met. Actually got to sit down and talk. It's like, oh yeah, I remember you. I don't even know if I remember from then. If at that point in time when I was talking to him, I can't remember if it was then when you said, "You remember me? I bought all your books all these years." Because you see so many people at the conventions.
You didn't until I said, always buy your biggest book at Rock. Oh yeah. Where's my money?
What was it we were talking about the other day? Is something about.
How you cheated yourself?
Yeah, I cheated myself out of my best customer because now he does the show with me, and he goes to when we do the shows, he goes with me to the shows, and we set up together. And I said, and he said, "You've cheated yourself out of your best customer." I sat there and thought, and I said, "You know what? You're exactly right." I said, "I don't know what in the world I was thinking," But no, it's fun, and it's so funny because we find these books or we find a collection or something like that, and you get out the door with them, and it's like, hey, Bubba, guess what I found?
Instantly.
Or we're texting, we're telling each other, it's like, hey, this is what's going on, and it's like, I found some great books finally, and we know we've been digging, there's a lot of duds, you go out there and they either don't want to sell them or what they have was either severely overpriced or it's just not, the stuff's just
or
not
the condition. I mean, it's sometimes the condition is just so rough.
They're just so bad.
Because we always try to bring a quality book.
There's a level we won't go below unless it's just
Well, I mean, if you go to, and this is something I noticed too, is when, and by no means knocking Rob up at Mount Empire, but when you go to like his back room or you go to see what he's got, and he's brought out a lot of really good stuff too. I mean, the Avengers with the first Vision, that black and red cover.
Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful. He's got first Black Panther. He's been bringing a lot of his collection out there to sell. But I've noticed, like, in comparison to what you guys bring, because you do choose to do this, there's a lot of lower grade stuff that Rob sells. A lot of great books still, and I don't want to knock for that. It's just that's what he gets across. But you guys do seem to go above and beyond to make sure you bring the highest quality you can of whatever issue you're trying to.
But in his defense, it's easier to sell a $40 book than a $500 book.
That's also very, very true.
So, I mean, and we'll actually offer alternatives. And that way, I've got this, this book super high grade, but I've got one here that's more of a reader copy, which is what we would call it. Hey, this is a reader, but it's, this is 500, this one's 80.
Right. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect example.
Perfect example.
Okay,
Right there.
Shazam. That's the first appearance of ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
This one is $200. This one is $100. When you have budgets, maybe you can spend $100, but you can't spend $200.
Right.
It's obviously lower grade. You can see the difference. You can see these creases here.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that edge is pretty rough. You see this one, that's nice and straight. I mean, there's, visual differences in the books, but some people will pay the extra amount for the higher dollar book.
Right.
But that's why we try to offer that option on certain books, because that allows every collector the opportunity to own that book.
Which I think is absolutely awesome. That's what I was telling my wife. I said, man, with I was like, you spit out some of the numbers of some of the books you guys sell. She's like, that's so expensive. I'm like, well, in comparison to some books, it's not. But it's. I said, but what I love about what you guys do is you offer some really good, rare, high quality books at a price that people can more honestly afford.
Our half price sale we did
the other day. Like I wish you could. There was a fly on the wall in my house with that Devil Dinosaur #1. My wife was just like, "You're itching." I was like, "I'm telling you." I don't know how many times I was pre-typing sold. I was like, I'll end up buying it from you definitely. That's going to happen. I love Devil Dinosaur. But and that's awesome that you guys do that. It's. For people who, especially like me, I make good money. I pay all my bills, get to do extra things with my wife, but I don't make tons of money, so I can't afford to buy a $500 book, $600 book, whatever. But there are books that I want that are pretty decent value that because of you guys especially, I'm able to actually attain that. And that not only is just something as a collector that's just really cool, but that's awesome because if you feel like you've achieved something, it's like, man, I've been hunting this for so long. Now I actually, own it. It's in my grasp. So, definitely thank you guys for doing it the way that you guys do, which is awesome. So,
but we have to buy in bulk a lot of times.
Yes,
we can't go buy that book at the comic book store that's asking $100 for it and then turn around and sell it for $100. So our options are limited, but we have to buy in bulk. Mm-hmm. So back to your previous question about saying, oh, we're not paying enough because it's worth more. Yes, there's a spot that we won't, we'll be truthful with people. But, you have to get a good deal to be able to offer good prices to your customers. Yeah. There's a flip side to it. But, we're not going to, you get a good book, it's worth, $100. You don't give them $1 and walk out. It's rare. Now, if we buy 10,000 books and we got them for $1 a piece. Sure. And there's a $1,000 book in there. Sure. You have to, because you have to. You have to make your money back one way or the other. Right. And there's a point you can't sell all 10,000 books.
Yes.
Believe it or not. There's a point you reach, you'll sell probably a quarter to half of the collection, and that's it. The rest of it, I guess if you did shows the rest of your life, and lugged around.
Put them out there for $4.
Yeah.
10 for $1.
But how long are you going to do that?
Right.
Well, so to be able to move through books like we do.
Got them at that. I know. One of the guys that's on the auction, Leo Fritz, I've talked about it, or Fitz, about there was key 29.9 issues I've been looking for. He happened to have 6 that I wanted, but he had a stack of, I think it was like 38, maybe 40 29.9s. He's like, I'll sell them all. I was like, well, I'm going to sell them all, which is fine. So I was like, okay. So I had to look and see what he got, and I really thought in my head, okay, I'm going to spend this much money. I only need these. I instantly went to, how can I sell the rest of these? Because I don't need to keep a hold of them. Thankfully, blessed out with what Leo had and the condition that he had, every dime that I spent, those 6 issues I needed, I didn't pay a dime for it in the long run. Because I was able to turn around and flip that too. But then sell them for a pretty good, cheap price too. Because I stopped thinking, I was like, okay, I'm going to sell these one at a time. How much am I going to spend? Can I give it to somebody who wants it? That's going to be a lot cheaper than they would spend. Very similar to when I bought that big run of Spider-Mans from you.
Yes.
There's a lot that I didn't need, but ones that I definitely wanted to make sure and have, especially the McFarlane art ones. But then there was a lot of sets, the Electro story that was in there. the Punisher one. So there was a couple of those. I'm like, cool. Well, I looked and say, okay, well, this set's selling for $20. I'm gonna sell something for 10. And to help me recoup that because it is. I mean, I think it's cool that you guys do that. So I knew that for me, even though it's nothing on the same level you guys do, I'm like, hey, what can I? It's
the same idea.
Yeah.
It's just,
3 sets I could have sold for $35-$40 that were in that I bought from me. I would have covered all of it. I sold it for 20, to a friend, to Tyler, our co-host, because he's getting into it. So I just think it's really cool that you guys do that. So
and we keep some books.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yes, I mean,
there's a few here and there. It's like,
because you have all the time. You just need to keep that book.
Yeah, don't sell that.
I
said that 100 times. Don't sell it.
And then now I'm like, okay, and I was bringing it over and show Jess. I'm just so excited. I'm like, I'm keeping this one. He said, "Oh yeah, don't sell that one." So we just and then even my wife. I mean, she gets on me. She's like, "We need to keep some of those." And I'm like, "Well, but what if you never find it again? What if you never have the opportunity to pick up that book?" And now I'm like, yeah, she's. Well, typically wives are right, but anyway,
we'll edit that out later.
Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, there's nostalgia collectors, kind of like yourself, I think, that remember stuff from their childhood and they're going back and getting it. And some of the books that I had when I was younger that I sold, I see now and I like to get. But there's also the I guess you call it the hardcore collector that wants issue 1 through 800.
Complete run.
They don't care what this. Or you also have the people that are investors now. Investors, speculators, and some, all they want is key issues. They want the first appearance of this. They don't care what number of Hulk 181. They don't care. I want that issue. And then I want an X-Men book. Or I want an Amazing 300. I don't care about 301 or 299 or any other book Amazing Spider-Man is, but I want that one book. We call it, and there's nothing wrong with that because you fill your collection up with nothing but key issues. Yeah. And that's hard to do. It's expensive.
But that's all investments.
But that's a long-term investment. They're not really into comic books so much, but the comic books they want are the key ones because there's a lot of filler books out there.
I think it's where I fall into. For me personally, is nostalgic and then key issues. You know what I mean? Like 300 is a perfect example. I don't care about 301 or 299, but I want 300 because of Venom. Favorite character, that's why I want that issue, or I want this specific issue of Godzilla. Well, no, Godzilla, it's all of it. It don't matter, even if it's terrible. But that's one of the things that's really cool. That's explained to my wife. She's like, "Well, how do you want to do it?" I'm like, "I just want certain ones. There's just certain things from my childhood, and then things I really like that I just want to have. Like Spawn #1, would love to have it. Spawn #9 would love to have that, but the rest of them,
I got them both. Come over and see.
Yeah,
I already sell it. You can buy his, but there's some right there with his arms reaching. I mean, literally, you can reach over and go.
At some point, I'm gonna have to start buying from Jeff, or at least 1 or 2 from Jeff.
That's all right. But yeah, there was. You hit on a subject, and we started talking about the Spawn, and it threw me off. But it's very typical, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've kind of turned into that. I got my, I collected Amazing Spider-Man, and it's there, got it. But now I want key issues also. But what happens is like you get the Amazing 300, and we see, they got it, they're happy with it, everything's good, and then a few weeks later. They'll come back and get the first appearance of Carnage, like
361, right?
361.
On the very end.
Yep.
It's still an Amazing Spider-Man
book, right?
Right.
150.
Yeah.
150.
So, but it's somebody like you that likes Venom. Now you got your Venom book. Where do I go from here?
There, yeah.
And it's like
it's the
progression. Carnage.
That's true.
Carnage, bang! I'll get Carnage, and it's like, where do I go from there? Well, maybe I'll get. The Venom Lethal Protector series. We see them start to spread out, and we've seen it. I mean, firsthand. Somebody will buy one book off of us, and they'll come back a few weeks later, and they'll buy that. We call it the progression book. Yep. It's the next book in the logical thought process. Or we'll get some. We'll sell a book, and we'll get it out to them. It's the third appearance of the Punisher. Well, they guess what? 2 weeks later they want the first appearance.
Yeah.
We see that a lot. It's very typical. It's just I guess the normal mind thinking, and I'm guilty of it.
But we enjoy it though. I mean, we do. We love for somebody to kind of get that book they want, and then be satisfy that particular urge, And then we enjoy them coming back in and go, hey, I'm looking for this now or that now, and
you guys do great about looking. Hey, you say all the time, I might have it. I think I got it at home. That's probably the running joke.
It's like I tell you, I'm gonna bring about 200 books. That's a typical what I'll bring. 200 out of 6,000.
Yeah,
so
you've got a lot now.
He's got to guess. You got to guess what.
Where Jeff, it's left and right.
Yeah,
they're all right here, he going to pick everything up. Me, and I'm pretty good at it.
If you've got it, get it. That's the way I always thought. But it's definitely easier for me if they call in a random book. But it's hard to have. Out of so many comic books, then there's millions of them, billions of them out there.
Yeah,
it's hard to have the one that they say.
Oh
hey,
yeah,
And a lot of times,
just like the Ultimate Spider-Man we were talking about,
yes.
Dead Spider-Man. That it is hard to pick the certain ones.
Well, see now that the particular book you were looking for, I just purchased. Well, the guy I buy from, he's in Charlotte and he's got over 60,000 comic books minimum at any time. He sent me the spreadsheet of his comic list. Jeff, he wanted, what was it, Aquaman 1. Mm-hmm. He said, I'm looking for an Aquaman 1. I said, give me about 15 minutes. Call it. And I'd literally come back, dude, he's got it. I've
seen scroll up that list.
I have yet.
Let's keep it running.
Yet to contact him. You got this book, and him tell me no.
Wow.
So, but and I happened word of mouth. He knew a guy. I knew a guy, and it's like, hey, he's collecting now. And it's just, Jeff had so many more books than me when we started. It was just my extras. Remember, I was just it was mostly Amazing Spider-Man stuff. There was some good Amazing Spider-Man stuff. It's all my extra good ones, and it's just over time. I've just been able just to meet people and buy books, and me and Jeff have been very fortunate on some of the stuff we found. We have, we've pounded the pavement looking for books.
Oh, definitely,
no doubt.
All right, well, so with what we got. Jeff, or any of these, what are some of your favorites? What are some of your key issues you're like, man, right here, I'm glad I picked this up? Which I know you threw a few up for the show. I didn't know what ones you had on here. And
most of them, like Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man is what I've collected since the beginning of my collecting. That's what of course, the issue I showed you. That's a 300 right there. That's the character. That's my character right there. I love, and I've actually expanded out into like Captain America now and some things like that.
That's awesome. So for those who don't know, Captain America did not have a Captain America #1, correct? His
that's
first
right.
appearance was 100. Was that one?
That's his first solo book, if you will.
Yes.
And this here, that's the first appearance of Deadpool, which everybody's seen the movies now.
Yeah.
This book, up until just a few years ago, was in the dollar bins.
Yes,
just like any other book. Yes, and now the Invincible's always been a little bit different. This one was short printed, hard to come by, and I bought this out of a larger collection. I bought about 4,000 books, and I don't mind telling you, I paid like $1,500 for the 4,000 books, and that was one of the books that happened to be in there. Right. And I didn't even realize it at the time. I saw it, and I pulled it out, and I set it down, and I thought, because there's a lot of books that look like reprints. Mm-hmm. And then once I went through all these other books, I came back to it, and I looked at it, and I said, that may not be the reprint. And I knew it was like a couple $100 book. And I actually sent it in. It was in such nice shape. I went ahead and sent it in and got lucky enough to get a 9.8. But
wow, that's awesome.
That's the first appearance of
Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Gwen. I want to call her Spider-Woman, but it's the first appearance of Spider-Gwen. Of course, the first appearance of Venom and the black costume.
Yep. That's the key issue for me.
And this is kind of a different scenario for me. This is an X-Men #1. It was a blank cover. A guy at a convention actually drew it. His name was Carl Alstetter. He actually drew the Cyclops and everything and signed it. And then here's all these other guys that have drawn X-Men books over the years. It's got 7 or 8 signatures on it. It's just a neat and different book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And one of a kind that's sitting there.
There's not another one that looks like that. Yeah. Then the Fantastic Four #1. Bought it, and that's one of those books you just don't know. You got to be very, very careful. You don't know if it's hard to tell if it was restored. or anything like that. But it did. Obviously, and where it came from, the history of it, I wasn't too worried. But that's a key issue, especially if they'll ever reboot it and do something good with it.
Good.
Well, I think even just for comics in general, especially with Marvel, I mean, that's almost historic,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I told Bub, I said, the one thing I like about it, the way they actually put it here, it says, origin and first appearance of Fantastic Four, Marvel's first superhero team. And it's like, it's actually,
it calls it out.
That is the start of the entire Marvel universe.
That's awesome.
That's kind of where it starts.
so cool.
And then our What If, that's a fun book.
That is a
if Venom possessed
super
Deadpool.
low print run. This is
super low.
This is by Scotty Young.
2014, right? 2013, 2014.
I can't remember the year.
2011.
Oh, 2011. Okay.
It's a hilarious story.
Oh, man,
Venom gets on Deadpool, and
He possesses Deadpool.
He possesses Deadpool, and Deadpool runs his mouth so much, Venom finally gets tired of him and leaves. So the book's hilarious, but it's a short print run, and it caught on. That's Scotty Young, a hot artist.
Very hot artist right now.
And it caught on years after it was actually released, and it's been a big hit ever since.
That's awesome. Bubba, what about you? Did you bring any?
I mean,
that you got, or?
Like I said, I just brought some more for show. Like I said, the first appearance of Guardians of the Galaxy, everybody's all Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. Over here.
Yes, and right beside of it, it's actually Incredible Hulk 271. This is what you would consider the second wave of Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the first appearance of Rocket Raccoon. And then right now, the Alias, the Jessica Jones. That's the first Jessica Jones in Alias. And then here's the first Gambit from the X-Men, and as I said earlier, the first Iron Fist, where
Again, so just a quick plug, Justin. When you watch this, he asked questions later. One of the things was he talked about his most wanted comic. Is that one the first appearance of Gambit's right there? Oh, and so they've got it.
The first one.
Listen,
it's for sale.
Listen, bring him to the house, and we'll go to the war room.
Well, he lives like 3 states away, so
that's all right. You can still
just to
bring
bring him over. Yeah. Check it out.
Yeah, right.
I got to get him in my clutches. But no, I mean, for me, I mean, this is just typically some of the books that I would bring to run on auction. Mm-hmm. But each collector is different, and each collector is unique in what they like and what they look for.
Right.
And that's why we do have such a diverse variety of what we have here.
Which I brought a few here of mine because I had to. I was just like, I got to show Jeff and the guys. This was actually, it may not be in the great shape you've seen, but this was when it came out. I bought 2 issues, kept this one put in the bag, and read the other one. So this one has been opened maybe once or twice from me from the stand, and actually got Sam De La Rosa to sign that one. And for just to have him, Roy Thomas signed it as well. Roy was even like, I didn't do anything with it. I said, yeah, but you're Roy Thomas, so just go ahead and sign it for me, That's why you guys are always selling those. And Sarah's like, you can buy another one? I said, I got mine. Like, right there. It's huge for me. I love the autographs. I love the fact that I've got just the newsstand and the stamp, both signed by Rick Leonardi, which is awesome, which is why the Toy Biz, if nobody buys that, it's going to end up being mine.
Yeah, you definitely need that Toy Biz variant that I have now.
Oh, got to. Because I'm such a huge, Miguel O'Hara, for some reason, I loved his Spider-Man more than Peter Parker. I was a big fan. Of course, starting out, that's where it started for me, really, was 29.9.
It's nice.
Now, this one is, of course, again, Godzilla Fanatic, signed by Arthur Adams, the color special. And, it's in, I don't even know that there's actually a spine break on this one to be that one.
Let me look at it, and
right there.
I'll destroy your dreams.
Drop it down.
They call me the Dream Crusher for a reason.
And there's some other cool ones.
Sometimes it's like, we'll turn on all the lights, or you take it outside in the sun.
Sunlight.
Sunlight is like the ultimate kill.
That's the telltale.
Yep. Yeah, I see one.
It's
nice, though.
Yeah, I loved it. Then there's a couple other ones. Conan with Roy Thomas. 88.
Yeah, it's good classic stuff.
Oh, love it.
You like Conan?
I do. I've been starting getting some of his comics now. So.
Well, you need to let me sell you a bigger run of Conans.
Well, that may have to happen here in the near future.
Super cheap.
after you get your Venom and stuff like that.
So Roy Thomas signed that one because obviously he wrote the first 100 issues. Roy Thomas signed this one.
I do like
Very nice.
Which I thought was really, really cool. Got Jeff Isherwood to sign Conan the King, one of the ones he did, which I thought was great. Not the best one. I may actually see about you guys pressing this because it's going to fold. As far as the condition of it. But I love the cover of that.
See, you just don't see that book a lot right there.
No.
And that book was actually stapled at the factory, it was stapled crooked, and that's why it looks like
Yeah,
that.
it's not really something that happened to it.
No, it's
It's just a manufacturing defect. They don't count off for
They
a
don't
lot
count
of
off
those.
Do
for
that? Okay, I didn't know that they would or not. So
anything done at what's manufacturing process.
And see, like we were talking about, and I don't mean to go backwards, but like the Star Wars, see where it's got a little bit of surface dirt on it? That's what can be cleaned off.
okay,
I can take that and make it
just,
white.
Just
See,
the
that's
appearance
awesome.
is much better.
Yeah.
You know, that's something I see as a collector. Boom, that hits my eyes, and it's like, oh yeah, it's just surface dirt. It doesn't. It's not hurting the book, but that stuff can be cleaned off.
It just brings the appeal of the book
which would be great.
higher.
Gasoline.
This is one I'm
Gasoline will take
stoked.
it right
Gasoline and blowtorches.
I mean, I love that I got to pick this one up. That's the X-Men
First Sentinel?
16.
What is it? What's the? I was trying to think. Is that First Sentinel? I can't remember.
My
can't
X-Men is weak unless it's a later key issue. So that I could not tell you.
I like
Still,
the old costumes.
You were definitely right. I mean, the book's a 2.
I was thinking,
two and
yeah,
a
two.
half.
Some,
Maybe a 3.
And back to your question before, you know, it's a nice book. Don't get me wrong, but to spend $100 to get it graded, and it's
No,
and it comes back a 2 or maybe a 3, that's fine. But you know, it doesn't help the book any, except if you want to preserve it.
Preserve the book.
gotcha.
I just you
see-
know, that's books we don't recommend be sent. A lot of people ask us that, but
See,
if
but
it were me, I wouldn't. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
pressing and cleaning does not help a book like this because pressing and cleaning does not take away spine breaks, color breaks. I mean, now if it's got an indentation in the spine or even on the cover, pressing will take that out. You know,
Okay.
sometimes, not always. So sometimes, I mean, you can press and press and press, and you'll still be able to see it. So
I love the Spider-Mans. And of course, big Cap fan. So if you're getting these, I thought these were pretty cool. Pick these up really, really too cheap. I mean, giant size number 1.
I love it.
Annual number
Well,
2.
and that's kind of a dream. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to say that's kind of a picker's dream. It's where you find something really nice and you know it's worth a lot of money and you pick it up for nothing. That's kind of everybody's got that kind of
Hope.
hope. You know, I picked it up for $1. We get people that post stuff on our site. It says, "Look what I picked up for 50 cents at the yard sale." I mean, I see them. They post pictures to us.
We
or
always
send-
congratulate them. I mean, I always
It's
say,
like,
dude,
good
great
job, yeah.
find, man. You know, because we're as happy for them to find books out without even buying it from us. I mean, it's just.
Oh, it's I
We
love
know how
it.
hard it is to
Yeah.
come across.
When some of my friends be like, "Oh man, I picked up this,"
Is that right there?
you know, issue, and I was like, "Man, this is great."
Yeah, anything with Hitler or the swastika, always buy. That's why I tell people. I don't care what
on the caps stuff.
any book. It'll always be worth something. Did you put it
there we
up?
go.
Oh, yeah. We sold it.
It was a Teen Titans book? We had something, but it had Hitler on the front. What was that?
I can't remember.
It's not a Teen Titans book.
It's not. I don't
It's
remember.
something
what it
else.
is
But
now.
anyway, anything that's just kind of rule of thumb. Anything you see with a swastika or or maybe Hitler or something like that. I don't know what it is about those books. I guess
People just want it.
they kind of put it to an era. You know,
Right.
You know, that's when these wars were going on, and they can relate to that. And all those books, if you're looking just in the guide, they seem to be more expensive and more sought after. It's not anything to do with a swastika or
Right,
anything
it's
like
just
that. It's just it ties you to an era.
Yes.
You know, like your Spider-Man, your 9/11 issue.
Yes.
You know, it's an all black cover. Hard to find in high grade because it's a solid black cover. You bend it one little bit. And
Yeah.
And that white sticks through like a shining beacon.
Right.
But I mean, it's there's books like that. Even if you're not a comic book collector, they see these things and figure out what they are. There's people that want those books outside of comic book collecting, kind of like when Superman
Yes.
died. You know, there's several books when Spider-Man got married. You know, those kind
Right.
of things.
When Aunt May died.
When Aunt May
I mean,
died.
Amazing Spider-Man 400. That's. I mean, there's a tombstone. I mean, that's just what the cover is.
oh wow.
It's a tombstone,
That's crazy.
and it's embossed.
Yeah.
Wow, that is super cool. Man, that's awesome. All right, so I won't pull all these out, which I mean also brought because I thought it was cool. It's my oldest
I like
Spider-Man.
Man Wolf.
Oh, Man Wolf! I love
First
Man Wolf
appearance of
too.
the Man Wolf. Saw that, I was like, yeah, I gotta
See,
grab this
it's-
one.
These are kind of. I mean, these are kind of books that
See, now,
I get excited.
$4.
about.
That's what I picked it up for. $4.
Good deal.
See, we always say, there's a sweet spot of what people can afford, and say I'm going to go out today and I'm going to spend $20, $30 on comics, and then you see this, and it's like, hey, I picked that up for $4.
$4.
I mean, that's great.
Oh man,
you
I was
can't beat stuff
so
like that.
stoked getting that. I'm not going to pull these out, but there's two I just wanted to show. One I thought was really, really cool, and which you may even have, Jeff. But since we always talk about the Devil Dinosaur, right there, there were 22. So
No.
You don't got that one?
I don't have it.
Oh man, Godzilla and Devil Dinosaur. They were actually together in 21 and 22, but the cover on that one, I just absolutely loved it.
Well,
loved it.
neither one of us really collect Godzilla, though. We merely purchase. Typically, we'll get 1 through 3 at the most, and that's what we kind of.
Oh man, I've got all 24 multiples of each issue. Multiples mainly like issue 20, which has got Godzilla fighting the Fantastic Four.
20 needs to talk to Jimmy.
Yeah, I know.
23 and 24 when the Avengers are in there, got multiples of those. You know?
Right.
Which
like
Spider-Man's only in it for a brief second, takes a picture of Godzilla and shoots off. He's like, no, I'm not getting this.
out.
Yeah, I'm out on this one.
I never knew that they even crossed over. That's
I had no
like
clue.
it. That's awesome.
And this was pretty cool because I wanted to get some questions on you guys from this one I picked up recently. It's got a tear, which, I mean, if you pulled out, you would see it's somewhere around here. But an older Ghost Rider with Doctor Strange. I thought that was pretty sweet. I didn't know much about it because I'm just now starting to get the Ghost Rider stuff.
I used to have a set of Ghost Rider. That was one of the things I sold. I had 1 through 81 of Ghost Rider of the original series, and I sold them all. That's one of the things, and it pains me when I see Ghost Rider books nowadays
It's like,
because that's something that I had every one of them. Now see how there's a wave in the book. Now pressing may help that. There's a good
That's why
chance.
when Man Things, I brought them, but that's what I was talking to you about was pressing to get that little wave out on those.
It very well
It
could.
just makes the book more appealing.
Which I thought the coloration on that one, as far as the color, it just looked
The color's
really good.
even with the spine break. I mean, it's
A lot of people, and I'm big on color books. I like books that were. See, when they do a print run, they pour the ink in there and they start printing these books. And the ones at the beginning have a lot more vivid colors than the ones like at the end of the book. You'll see the same book, but it's got multiple color depths.
Right.
And I'm real picky. Even though the book may be banged up a little bit more, I like a book if it's got more color.
Yeah, I'd prefer. Yeah, I mean, one of the big key reasons why I wanted another Godzilla #1 was just really the color was huge on it. For
You can have
us,
that dark orange background versus a blandish, whatever, a yellowed look to it. It's much prettier when it's vivid, that orange.
Oh, definitely.
And the green of Godzilla is a lot.
I had those Iron Man, the first print of Jim Rhodes when he did the first Iron Man costume. You could tell one was earlier in the print run because it was blue. Toward the end, it looks purple. Right? Remember those two covers I had? Yeah, and it actually.
I remember. Did you show them off one of the auctions? Yeah,
I did. And then when I showed it, everybody's like, "I want that one." I'm like, "Well, which one?" And for the one, they were
300's the same way.
300's the same way. Absolutely.
You get some that's got more red.
Yeah, I can.
The 300 is more red. This was probably halfway through the print run or whatever, or at least one of the print runs.
Now, toward the end, you can actually see there's black writing on the back. You'll be able to see it through the yellow. On the later print runs, you can actually see it. So you can about tell.
Some of them are just
where it was
oranges.
print. Yes.
Definitely learned a lot with that. So, well, guys, let's because I'm just for time wise because we're about almost 2 hours into it.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's so much fun.
Great. Yeah, this is awesome.
Let's just jump into the superheroes and video games. Let's more short us a little bit because I mean that we could talk about forever too. 'Cause, I mean, I love video games.
I'm ignorant when it comes to this. I'll lend my 2 cents, but I'm not keen in on that as much as I'd like to be.
We'll keep it super simple. I mean, video games been around forever. First superhero video game was Superman, unfortunately, because they could have picked. But it's 1979. Superman's Atari came out, but I mean, it just kept going from there. And we see superhero games all across the board. Lego Marvel's games, Lego DC games,
Great games.
DC versus Mortal Kombat. A lot of crossovers. But let's keep this one super simple and sweet. Because I know we got some questions that some people have asked. We will get to favorite superhero video game that ever. Doesn't matter what system. Nintendo, Xbox. Bubba, we'll start with you and we'll run right down.
Oh my gosh. About anything Spider-Man. I mean, even though the early Spider-Mans, they were horrible. And the early X-Men, even on the NES, was horrible.
Oh, man.
Danger Room was a great, I mean, the graphics, at that time I thought, oh my gosh, they're so good. But I play something on the PS4 now, and I go back to play my 8-bit NES and or my 16-bit SNES. I'm like, oh man, it's just it's. But I still enjoy the games. I mean, I've always enjoyed just because of collecting of Amazing Spider-Man comic books. Any Amazing Spider-Man video game I've always liked. So I mean, it'd be hard for me to narrow them down because they all have good and bad in every one of the games. But anything Amazing Spider-Man would be my favorite.
I can agree with that. Actually, a friend of mine and somebody who listens to the show we were talking about the Spider-Man game for Super Nintendo.
Yes.
Which was still a good game, but we felt that it was a big letdown because you had, prior to that, the Maximum Carnage game.
That's right.
And then Separation Anxiety.
That's right.
And the
all
Spider-Man
SNES games.
Yeah, and the Spider-Man used the same engine, but somehow it became more constricted.
Yes.
Then the other ones where I was like, well, how did they mess that up? Considering you had these two phenomenal games and then you used the same engine on Spider-Man, but you were limited.
Well, they already had the platform there. They already had the platform, but I don't know if they were trying to transition him into so it wouldn't feel so much like the Carnage games or even the Separation Anxiety.
True, because I think they definitely have their own feel of a lot of.
And I don't know if they were trying to transition that game in particular. So it felt like it was its own game, possibly. But I do agree. I do agree with that. So that's
still a good game, but
yes,
it was
still a
interesting.
good game. So
Jeff, what about you, man?
Mm-hmm.
Fortnite.
Fortnite.
Fortnite's the answer.
Fortnite. The Thanos mode in Fortnite.
There you go. Which was super popular.
I've not played a lot of games with superheroes in it. We were joking earlier about Grand Theft Auto. Actually had a hack later on that had a Spider-Man hack in it, and that was probably the first time that I actually played a game that had a superhero in it. I like the first-person shooter killer games, those kind of things. So I never was. It was either like back in the day, Doom or something like that.
Doom.
I'm fixing to start playing the Brutal Doom mod here soon. I saw where I can finally get it and how to install it. I'm like, I gotta try this out.
Doom 64 is still the best.
Oh, that was good.
Doom 64.
When it comes to the GoldenEye 64, I think it was a little bit better than Doom, but Doom 64 was, when it comes to first-person shooters on consoles, that was tough.
That's what I grew up on. So I didn't really, of course it started with Atari and stuff like that, but as I grew older, it was first-person shooters for the most part. So there's not a lot of, superhero first-person shooters. So it was always your Call of Duties and things like that. So
I don't think it was pretty close. That was actually pretty good. I don't know if you ever got around to playing it or if you can. It was first-person, third-person mix, where it's kind of like that over-the-shoulder. But Spawn the Eternal for PlayStation 1 was a absolutely phenomenal game. That was such a good game.
And being on PS1, it was a difficult game.
Oh, very difficult. I don't know that I actually ever beat that one, to be honest. I mean, it was very difficult.
I can't remember if I ever beat it or not, but typically I can run through a video game rather quickly.
Now, the Spawn for Super Nintendo was pretty good, too. It was very good. It was an awesome game. That one was really good. Matt, what about you? Favorite superhero game?
Well, we talked about it earlier because I didn't play too many for like Nintendo, but I remember for Sega Genesis, it was Batman Forever.
Oh, yeah, you brought that up.
Great movie. And
No, not the movie. You're talking about the game?
The video game.
Okay, because we won't get into the Batman movies.
Bad, yeah.
Batman and Robin?
Yeah.
Terrible?
Yeah,
we know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing we argue about, too.
Yeah, video game. My bad, sorry. But also, even more recent, too, is the Injustice series. I love playing.
That is a great series.
I love playing those video games.
Great series.
It's great.
I think because the Injustice series is why the DC versus Mortal Kombat was not as good.
Probably.
Did you ever play either of those?
I'm not a big Mortal Kombat. I mean, I like Killer Instinct.
That was a great game.
I was Fulgore, and I would flat rip your world up.
That was awesome. So good. That's Batman Forever was a good game. I remember Batman Returns was pretty good too.
Batman Returns was very good.
Like that one. Both my sons played that one a lot. They had, it's on their little ATT Genesis, came up built into it. But like, Dad, we got to have the actual cartridge version. I'm like, well, yeah, absolutely, it's Batman. You got, I'm okay with that. Where they're like, oh, look, it's Sonic. I'm like, it's on the console itself. You don't need that. Batman, yes. They actually just watched me. My son did play Maximum Carnage last week, and so when it comes to the superhero games for me, Maximum Carnage all the way. I mean, obviously Venom, but that game was, I thought absolutely top notch. I loved it. Separation Anxiety was pretty good too, and there's a lot of good ones. I mean, Spider-Man for the 64 was phenomenal.
And that was just straight Spider-Man. I mean,
that was the first game I ever played when I picked it up, where I literally, and not in the sense of like when you play Zelda, you're like, man, this is such a big game because it's long and so much stories.
Yes.
But that Spider-Man was the first game that I played where I felt like this is a big world I'm in.
Well, that was one of the early open world concept games.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't completely open world as in the sense that we get in a lot of the PS4 games and then Switch games as well, like the new Zeldas. I mean, you could run out of city, but it took very
long time.
It took an extreme amount of. I mean, you had to be purposefully trying to do it.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that's what made that game kind of a pivotal game for all gaming systems to
was the way they built the world.
Yes.
Because I remember I would just spend an hour just web swinging.
I loved it.
It was so much fun. It's like, man, I can actually, instead of just web swinging from one side of the screen to the other, in the side scrollers, I could just go and be Spider-Man.
Go to the highest point in the city, and that's where I would start.
Oh yeah, it was so much fun. Loved it so. But yeah, that's something we go through. But I mean, superheroes are huge. We love them. Superhero video games. I mean, Jeff, there's a lot you gotta catch up.
I gotta catch up.
You do. Go get you one of those SNES classics. I'll mod it for you and get you like every one. So it's good. So
I didn't play a lot of those, of course, but I spent a lot of time on adventure games and open world concept adventure games, and just played a lot of that, and then graduated to first person shooters. I was one of the zombie boys, playing zombies, whatever it was, Nazi zombies or whatever. But now with kids, my focus has changed a little bit. It's whatever they're playing because if you want to spend, it's not family time with them. It's different. If we were to go to town and do something or do something together, it's if you can spend time with them playing the games. And it's whatever game they're really playing now. It's what I play.
I like that with my kids the same way. My boys, we've been playing for a while. Serious Sam on the original Xbox. I'm amazed because they're 4 and 6 and they're playing this first person shooter. Especially, I don't know if you've played Serious Sam or not.
I've seen it.
It's insane. Like even on the easiest difficulty, you walk in a room and there should be 20 bad guys in a normal game. There's like 80. It's just they don't. It's Serious Sam because you can't take it serious, but they love it, and that's something I love. They're playing that game, and I get to play that game with them. So I definitely get where you're at on that one because that's so much fun with them. All right, well, Matt, you want to move into the Q&A?
Yeah, we got a few questions here. We'll just keep on the video game track, and then we'll go back to the kind of in with the comic books again. And I'm not sure who else played these games, but anybody can chime in. What was the better multiplayer arcade game? X-Men, Avengers, or TMNT?
My vote goes TMNT.
TMNT
was awesome.
Yeah. I have to agree.
It was so good.
Full size stand up.
Yeah, there was.
Turtles. Because anybody could jump in at any time and go with you.
Yes. Yeah. Drop the quarter and you were good at that.
That's why I liked it, because they could actually join in a game, a game in progress. So I agree with that.
Yeah. Favorite Arkham game, Batman?
We're talking about, so this one, Justin's questions.
Yes.
I didn't mean Bubba's. We're talking about the
original.
Yeah,
I feel like the original is the best.
It is. In my opinion, I do.
Yes.
I mean, every bit of it.
The other ones are good. Don't get me wrong, but I think and I don't know if it's where they kind of introduced it, and it just has a better feel and a better flow. But I just the original.
With the dynamics of the game, I definitely think the first one was the best, because when you move into Arkham City and Arkham Knight, it's way more open. But I think the claustrophobia of the first one, being inside Arkham, is really what made that game.
And it makes it more challenging because, I mean, you're actually closer to everything happening, instead of having to search for a battle at times.
Right. Awesome. Okay, this goes into some your comic books, and we've kind of touched on a couple of these already, but do you remember your first comic book, your first issue that you ever read or that you ever picked up?
Blue Beetle #2.
Blue Beetle #2.
My dad picked that for me.
Amazing Spider-Man 284 right there.
Right there.
Yeah,
I should have brought Blue Beetle #2. I don't know why I didn't. That would have been really cool.
Amazing Spider-Man issue unknown.
somewhere in there.
Danny Briscoe, if you ever hear this, let me know what it was.
Please tell me what that book was.
I feel like a schmuckatelli.
That's awesome.
Actually, I remember a Human Fly book. My cousin collected, and he had a Human Fly. There was like, I'm not sure how many books, to be honest with you, but there was several books, and he used to have a Human Fly book that had Ghost Rider on the back of Human Fly's motorcycle or vice versa. And it was a very cool cover. And I remember seeing that book, and that image of that book is burned into my head, but it's not a book that I owned, but I can remember seeing specific books back in the day, and we're talking about I'm getting back when I was 8. You know, I can remember seeing these books, but I didn't physically own them or never bought them. But
I don't know what issue that is, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I saw it up at Rob's. So the Human Fly. He's
like number 2 or number 4 or something like that, because Human Fly didn't do that many books. 12 issues maybe or something. I don't know. But very cool book.
Loved them.
But
that's cool.
I can remember stuff like that. It's just it's kind of neat when I see them. It's like nostalgia galore. You know, nostalgia.
Yeah. Great. All right. Let's see. What is the finest book in your collection, and do you have like a Holy Grail type book? Or is that the same one?
Amazing Spider-Man 129, The First Appearance of Punisher. I mean, and then probably Amazing Spider-Man 50, First Appearance of Kingpin. And that's probably my two favorite books.
And see, we both collect Amazing, so
yeah.
I mean, he's quoting the Grail books of Amazing Spider-Man, which is good.
Yeah.
I got an Amazing Spider-Man 1, but it's in a lower grade. It's kind of like the Fantastic Four. I mean, that's a Grail book, really.
Oh yes.
It's not super high grade, but it's I mean, it's a higher end book, that's for sure.
Right.
It stands. You know, you get some of these books, and then you get some that are $2,000 and $3,000, but then there's one there that makes a mark at $10,000 for that one book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a substantial book.
I think for mine, I mean, I like the older X-Men is definitely one that's probably worth a lot. But I think for me, my favorite, again, not worth a lot, but to me, Spider-Man 29 on number 1, both autographed by Rick Leonardi, the newsstand and the stamp version. My Holy Grail, number 300, Amazing Spider-Man up there. I mean, that's the one that's
What's the modern age Grail as far as I'm concerned.
That's the modern age Holy Grail.
Being the Venom guy here, I love it. So.
All right, and how do you guys find cheap but good condition comics? I know
it's luck. I mean, it really is. It's
a lot of hard work.
A lot of looking at Let Go, Facebook, Craigslist, word of mouth. You know, it's more luck than. I mean, it truly is luck. I mean, because we went out to look at comic books, and it's not what I would consider a quality collection. Let's put it like that. You know.
And nobody wants a book that's just
beat to death.
Yeah, rat hole beat to death. You know, nobody will buy that, and we wouldn't expect to sell it. But there's no easy answer to that one question.
I bet
you have to love the hobby. I mean, that's for sure. And I guess I'd be a yard sale nut if I did yard sales more. But just going through stuff. I love finding a box of books. Yeah,
just flipping through the books.
That next one could be the one. You know.
Yeah.
When you're flicking through it, I mean, it's not easy.
It's looking at a lot of stuff. You know, I mean, I love hitting up the antique shops or the flea markets. I mean, I remember when I was touring in the band full time. It's literally stroke of luck. We were in Montana. We were in New Mexico. Don't remember what town we're in. We were either leaving Santa Fe or going to. Pulled off at a Taco Bell to eat. And a couple of us got done, walked out back to our van, and we saw a little hole-in-the-wall Goodwill store. I mean, not like the ones we see around here that are somewhat decent. I mean, small hole in the wall. Like, let's go over there, see what they got. I walk in one of the cases, they have just a bunch of old video games. They had the original Super Mario Brothers single edition, not the double with Duck Hunt or the triple one, single, in box with booklet. Super Mario Brothers 2, in box with booklet. Super Mario Bros. 3, in box with booklet. All in great condition, 99 cents a piece.
Unreal.
Picked all them up, sold them for $150.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like, I was like, oh, we'll do this, you know. So it is. I mean, luck. I mean, putting the work in to look for it. But
if you look, you will come across them.
Yes,
you should.
You will.
Sooner or later, you'll find it. Sometimes you can get super lucky.
It's such a good payoff.
Yeah.
It's the adrenaline you get from it. It's just like.
What am I going to find?
Yes.
You're like, the question is, did he give him $5 a piece for him, or did he just did you really pay 99 cents?
I promise you. I 99 cents.
But you didn't feel bad and give him $5 a piece?
Had a Goodwill? No, not at all.
That's part of the fun, and that's part of the fun.
Well, I mean, actually, that was a great find for us because, if I'm not mistaken, our lead guitar player is a huge fanatic, and it's a great game called Earthbound.
I loved Earthbound.
Now, it wasn't It had the box, if I'm not mistaken. I know it had the game, but I think it had the box, no instruction manual, and I think he paid like $5, $4 or $5 for it, next to nothing.
Gosh.
I mean, that's a game that sells for over $100. Yeah,
Wow.
Oh, wow.
100 for it. You know, I picked up Altered Beast in box. Such a good game, so hard.
Favorite
I
game.
love it. In box with booklet, $1. Yeah, I mean,
That's
so-
amazing.
That's good.
Amazing.
But that's some of the things you hope to get. Typically, and we can't wait to find those. You
Yeah.
know, but you know, if we got people buying books every week, we need to put something out for them.
Right.
So we can't dig through everything and just hope we'll find something. There's points in time that you have to. Hey, this is a pretty nice collection.
Leap
we
of faith.
Yeah, we need to just go ahead and just buy it. I hope there's more books in there. You know, you just do things like that. But yeah, we're always hoping we'll find the big, you know, the big oh, there's an Amazing Fantasy, you know, the first appearance of Spider-Man, or here's an Action Comics 1. Yeah,
It's like I'm
$2.
retired.
Yeah, you know, everybody'd love to find it, but yeah, those are very few and far between. I mean, I've been collecting for 30 years, and I've found some good things for my personal collection over the years, but I've still yet to find something huge.
Yeah,
Right.
And
I mean, just huge.
I agree. I mean, I've yet to find that one. I'm like, you know, pick it up and you're shaking.
Yeah, it's like, is this really this book?
It's a dollar. $1.
Yeah. There, a lot of people know about comic books nowadays. It's
Right.
not something that
Mid-80s.
people aren't familiar with. Yeah, 70s and 80s, 80s especially, and I guess even 90s when things were starting to get a little hot and starting to take off. There was a lot of people out there that did not know. But now comics are so widespread, you know,
Right.
with the movies and everything else. Who has not? You know, if you're an 80-year-old person and you have grandkids, just because you have grandkids, you know about these characters in these movies. So there's not as much hidden anymore about comics as there used to be.
True. That's very true.
So you people know they've got something.
They know they got something.
They know they got something.
Oh yeah. Was there any more Q&A?
That was it. Other than how'd you break your hand?
That's
That was the first question I asked him when they pulled up. I
He
said,
was
"What
looking
did
through
you
a
do
box
here?"
of comics, playing a video game.
The Gators lost to Kentucky. That's what we're going to blame it on. Man, that just, you know what? And I was busy too when talking about that game, and I was like, I got to watch the game, you know, because I don't miss the Gator games. I was born at Shands Hospital at the University of Florida, so I was born a Gator, I'll die a Gator. Don't miss the Gator games. For some reason, I missed it. It was almost like God going, don't watch this game. Yeah, because you're not going to like it.
He was trying to avoid the stress.
Yeah, because that would have been rough. 1979, last time they beat us. Not anymore. So, all right, well, guys, again, thank you so much for letting us come out here and do this. I mean, obviously, for those of you watching and those of you listening, because I will put this up at both formats, give Heroes Hangout a like on Facebook. Check them out. If you're a comic book fan, you're not going to find a group of dudes that won't hook you up the best way possible.
Saturday night, 7 to 11.
That's right. Saturday night, 7 to 11. Sometimes, occasionally Thursdays, but they let you know.
We like to have a surprise show.
Yep, sometimes.
Follow
So,
us and you'll get notifications as soon as we go on.
so, and they do a great job, and they know what they're talking about. I mean, they nail the gradings on these things almost to a T when they tell you about it. You won't get anything that's not in great condition. I mean, I enjoy knowing you guys, enjoy being friends with you guys. I love that you guys do what you do. So thank you so much for joining us with this.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having
dude,
us.
it's been a blast.
That was awesome.
So I think the only way we can sign out on this before we go is we've got the hammer on the table.
The mighty hammer.
I thought it was like an intimidation thing.
Oh, no.
It's
So,
he's been
Thor's
moving
hammer.
around like nothing all
It
day
is.
long. It's just like,
That's we're worthy.
We're worthy.
We're worthy to wield the hammer.
I don't know if you can do it or not, dude. We always wanted to try to get something, and actually the idea come out of the logo. If you see our logo, see Thor's hammer.
Yep.
We were trying to replace, of course, letters with stuff, and this come up. Somebody mentioned it. I don't remember who it was, but they said we had when we first started. We had like a. I don't know. It wasn't a hammer.
No, I forget
But we
what
had
it was.
something. We'd be embarrassed to go back and look at the
Sold.
old video. Yeah, we go, sold. And it might have been a Mountain Dew bottle or something. But somebody said, you need to get a hammer. You need to get Thor's hammer. And that'd be your gavel, when you're done at the end of the auction, man. And I thought, we're a bunch of dummies. You're exactly right. That's exactly what we ought to have. So I scoured the internet and got one off Amazon. It's just good phone because you never know where this thing might be thrown.
It's signed too, though, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
it's
Go ahead, show 'em. It's signed.
It's
Well,
actually
yeah.
Well, and the weird thing is I actually found a Deadpool mask, and I wore it on one of the shows, and everybody's started calling me Bubba Pool.
Okay, that's why it's on
He said Bubba Pool needs to sign the
hammer.
He said he's worthy to sign it.
That's great.
And then now Stan Lee, they said we had a lot of signed books and do all the time, and they said, well, you need to, Stan Lee and Todd McFarlane need to sign that too. And came up there one of the shows because we'd have Stan Lee sign books and Todd McFarlane
sign books.
And it's like, well, they've not signed the hammer. And it's like, well, yeah, you know. And so I said, now the hammer's work. Because somebody asked, you know, could they buy that? And I said, well, yeah, everything's for sale. And it said, but if Stan Lee and Todd McFarlane signed it, it's worth a whole lot more now. So that's basically
I was wondering where that had to come from. So, well, hey, man. Sign us out with that thing. Give it a good smackdown.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
See ya.
See ya.
Complete, man. Ain't got time. I'm invincible.
Ready, Jack?